All right, y'all. What up? What up? I'm Mode IJ. Torian, I got you. The only thing is, I don't have my Discord. I'm not connected to my Discord on the computer. So I got to go between my phone and my computer. But today is 9/11, 2023, 22 years later. Now, we're going to be talking about remembering 9/11. I got some clips together. We're going to do a little bit of investigating on our own. But this was a sad moment in our lives. And I remember exactly where I was. I was actually walking to school when all of this happened. I was walking to school when all of this happened. But I got you, Torian. I'm gonna drop the link now. Let me see. Yeah, I don't even know what, like, can I just log into Discord on the computer? I don't know nothing about that Discord stuff. I'm learning as we go. But it's September 11th, 23 years later, man. Well, 22 years later. Man, it's been a hell of a time in American history. Eric said he was in first grade. First grade? You was in first grade? Because I was a junior, 2001, 2002. Yeah, I was a junior when it happened.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm gonna log into Discord one of these days on my computer because I don't have I don't have the Discord on my computer. I just use the phone.
I'm logged in on both, on my phone and on my laptop and on my computer. Well, so that's three.
Yeah, see, I didn't know nothing about. I mean, I knew what Discord was, but I never was involved in Discord other than like an Adobe Discord that I was in. But other than that, I never really used it.
Okay.
But yeah, this is gonna be a good one. This is gonna be probably about an hour, 2 hours. I don't know how much time you have, but
Yeah, I'm pretty much free all day.
yeah. So I got the timeline. I got a what is it, a 60 minutes doc, and then I got like another documentary. So yeah, we're just gonna go over this and talk about it. I mean, where were you at when 9/11 happened?
I was in middle school. I was in the 7th grade, as a matter of fact. I was actually yeah, because it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday morning. And I remember I had went to the I had asked the teacher, could I go to the restroom? Went to the restroom because the restroom was right down the hall from where my classroom was at. So it was kind of like in the middle of the hallway, where my classroom was on the end of the hallway. And then when I was walking out of the restroom to come back to the classroom, I heard this loud rumbling sound. But I was like, I didn't really think too much of it. So I just like, okay, I was like, okay, whatever, and just went back to my classroom. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like sometimes, kids will leave school early, like they'll come over the intercom and say so and so is here for early dismissal. Like you don't think nothing of it because like people leave school early all the time. But then up after the fifth one came through, I was like, okay, something ain't right because we've never had it where people leave school early, like in rotation like that. After the fifth one, my antenna started to raise. I think as a then 12-year-old at the time, and then a whole bunch of kids just started leaving early, left and right. Like it got up to like maybe 20 to 30 at a time. Like I was like, what's going on here? Because at the time we still didn't really know anything because they probably told the teachers not to like turn like any TVs on because they probably didn't want the kids to panic. So my dad came and he had picked me up from school. Like they actually like just ended up letting all the kids get out of school early that day, probably around the nation. They probably just did a nationwide let all the kids go home, and probably people get off work and go home because they didn't know what was going on. Went home, and then that's when we saw it on every news outlet about what was going on. And I think at that time, I think one of the planes had already hit one of the towers. Now when we got out of school, the towers were still standing. They hadn't collapsed yet. They were still standing. And maybe about an hour later, that's when like the first tower fell. And then a few minutes later, the second one did. But the rumbling I heard was when it was that plane that crashed into the Pentagon. Because that's where I live close to. The Pentagon is like over in Virginia. Mm-hmm. But we heard that rumbling all the way over in Maryland.
Yeah, see, so when it was happening, I was walking to school, and I'm from the Midwest, so I never knew. I mean, I knew what the Twin Towers were, but I didn't know what the World Trade Center was.
You didn't know they were the same thing?
Yeah, I didn't know. I just thought the Twin Towers were just, okay, America has the two tallest buildings in New York. Well, by that time, they weren't the tallest building, but I just thought it was just a two tall building. I didn't know it was the World Trade Centers. So let me see. So by the time they hit 8:46, so it was 7:46. I was late for school, and my two-way kept going off, saying that the WTC got hit. Plane, I what the hell is a WTC? I was like, I ain't never know that it was the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
It was about 7:46 a.m. here. I was walking to school, and it kept going off. Like, damn, why is my my two-way pager going off? I knew wasn't nobody paging me that early because everybody was in school. But when we got to school, they put all of ours on TV. A lot of kids got dismissed from school. I couldn't get dismissed because my parents didn't have anything involved with it. So it was basically anybody that had family members in New York, they let go home. We still had football practice the same day.
So even with all of that, y'all still really didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, we didn't know what was going on. It may have been a one-off, maybe.
And see, at the time, we didn't have social media. So you could only get your information from the news. And if you didn't have the news on, you really did not know. And here's the crazy part. My dad, now this is where we really showing our age with this one. My dad was literally in a Circuit City. Many people, the ones coming up today don't know what the hell a Circuit City is. You bring up a Circuit City, they don't know what it is. You bring up Best Buy, don't know that. But just tell them that Circuit City was literally the competitor with Best Buy. But Best Buy, of course, won at the end of the day. But he was inside of a Circuit City, and in those electronic type stores, they'll always have the TVs on. So when that happened, they literally jumped all the televisions from advertising, Circuit City advertisements, straight to the news. So all the TVs in the store all had on the same thing at the same time about what was going on. So the people in the stores was probably like, they just regularly shopping that day. And then they probably like, hold up, what the hell is going on here? Like, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, we watched it. So the second tower, we seen it hit. We seen both of them collapse. Because once we got to school, everything stopped. I mean, there were kids that were getting dismissed. Parents were coming to get them. But the rest of us, we had to stay in school and we stayed in class. So we didn't switch classes at that point because they didn't know.
Yeah, that's how it was for us. Like when we got like once it got to a certain part of the day, because again it was in the morning, so we was only in school for maybe about an hour when they started dismissing kids. I think we did one class switch, but that was it. We didn't do any more switching classes after that. We just stayed in one class. And I think one of the teachers, she actually, I can't remember if she turned the TV on or not, even though she wasn't supposed to. But I think she did turn the TV on, and then that's when all of us saw what was going on in New York at the time. Because we didn't know what was going on over at the Pentagon at the time, even though we heard something. And the thing is, that rumble was so intense that I felt the building shake. I thought it was a damn earthquake. Like I literally was like, it was a loud boom, sound like a bomb exploded, and it literally shook the building. Like literally, I remember it vividly all these years later.
Yeah, man, it was a wild time, bro. That was a wild time. Like we didn't know what was going on. We ended up having practice. And the thing I do remember, we had a coach, Pete, and we used to have a thing called Pete Shuffle. So whenever you warm up, you'd be like, do the Pete Shuffle. So you basically run sideways. You know what I'm saying? So you do the Pete Shuffle. But that same day, we had football practice. It was a short football practice, maybe about an hour. We just did like conditioning. But Coach Pete, by the end of the day, he had got called by the National Guard. So that was the last time I ever seen Coach Pete. He got activated for that. Also, once 9/11 happened, my father went up to MCI, Kansas City's airport, and he was in charge of the airport security up at MCI airport. So they had him at a hotel. He stayed up there for probably about 5 to 6 months, basically just doing the security assistant with TSA. So my family was involved. I mean, my dad didn't go anywhere. He just went up to the airport, which is probably about 40 minutes from where we stayed. So he stayed there for about 5 or 6 months doing that. We would go up there and stay with him on the weekends. We'd get the hotel room while he went to work. Man, it was crazy times, man.
Yeah, I think, and the thing is, I don't think I think they kept, well, I don't know about anybody else, but I think they kept our schools closed for like the rest of the week.
Oh, not
after that, because we definitely didn't go back. We definitely didn't go to school the next day. I do remember that.
Rainey, if you want to, you can hit the link. You can come up for a minute, and we're gonna go ahead and jump into like some of the, some of the videos. Like I said, I got the 60-minute. I got a demonstration of how the buildings actually collapsed. So, Rainey, I'm gonna put the link again. You can join, and then me and Torian after that, we're gonna go ahead and jump into these documentaries. Since you were in actual New York.
Because there's actually video online where you can actually see the plane crash into the building, like raw footage, not like news clippings that's like catches it after the fact. Like you can actually see someone was down there recording it, and as the plane literally crashed into the first tower, and then you see the other one crash like a few minutes later.
Yeah, I tried to get some that wasn't, just like we did with the tsunami. I tried to get some that wouldn't get copyrighted. So I know which ones you're talking about. I have one from helicopter footage of them actually flying around the plane. Let me see.
Mr. Card, I want to talk to you about September.
Let me see something. If I can get this up real quick.
September 11th, 2001, 15 years later. Reflect for us a little bit on that particular day, that morning. What are the 11 words that you said to President Bush at the time? And did it occur to you where this country would be going at that moment? And reflect on those past 15 years.
Before the president walked into that classroom of second graders at the Emma E. Booker School in Sarasota, Florida, he had been told, and I was standing right beside him when he was told this, it appears a small twin-engine prop plane crashed into one of the towers at the World Trade Center in New York City. That's what I knew he knew when he walked into the classroom. after he walked into the classroom and I was still left in the holding room, the door shut, and the director of the White House Situation Room, a Navy captain at the time, Deb Lauer, came up to me and said, "Sir, it appears it was not a small twin-engine prop plane. It was a commercial jetliner." And then a nanosecond later, she came up and told me, "Oh my gosh, another plane hit the other tower at the World Trade Center." That's when I contemplated my responsibilities as chief of staff. And the test was, does the president need to know? The answer is yes, no, obvious yes. I made a decision to pass on 2 facts, make 1 editorial comment. I thought about what I would say. I knew that I couldn't expect the president to have a dialogue with me because he was sitting in front of a press pool in front of these second graders. And I did think about the words that I would use. I'm not sure that I knew enough to think to use 11 words. It just turns out it was 11 words. I opened the door of the classroom, went in, and when it was appropriate, when the president was not participating in a dialogue with those young students, I walked up to him and leaned over and said, "A second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack." I then stood back from him so he couldn't ask a question. I knew that what I delivered as a message was a very unusual message. It was going to be a historic message for him to receive. I knew that he was in a venue where he really probably couldn't ask questions the way he wanted to, but I also had every expectation that he recognized what his job was as president. And I think,
So, I mean, that's wild. I mean, I don't know, you always hear the conspiracies and everything, but still hearing that for the first time, I got you, Rainey. Hearing that for the first time, man, no one ever expects that. Because at first they initially thought it was just a small, you know what I'm saying, just a small plane. But after the second one hit, that's when things got serious. All right, I got you, Raina. How's it going?
How you doing?
Hey guys, I hear an echo. Am I doing something wrong?
We're not hearing one.
Okay.
You might
I
have
don't.
to.
I don't hear echo.
You still hearing it, Rainey?
Oh, I hear ya.
Okay, yeah, you might have to mute the YouTube.
So do I? Just my first time.
Yeah, so you're in StreamYard now. If you have YouTube open, you can just go ahead and close it because you'll be able to hear us and everything that plays off the computer.
All right, give me a second.
Oh, it's all right. Well, she figures that out. Let me see.
I think that's the day he really
Okay.
recognized the great burden of being president.
Am I still in?
Oath of
Yeah.
office, and the oath comes right
Okay.
from Article 2 in the Constitution, and it calls
Nice
for
to meet everyone. Excuse me, I literally just got up.
No, you're good. You're good. Well, you have the New York perspective, so we're going to take your
Yeah.
expertise right here, and you can tell us where you were and what was the environment like.
Okay, well, I was actually born in New York, but I was living and working in New Jersey at the time. And I was 37. I worked for a hotel company and I was a receptionist and an office manager. And we had a lot of employees that were going to the city for meetings. So I'm a big sports fan. So excuse me, y'all, if I sound nervous. So when I come in, my desk is the first desk you see. And I always put on my radio to start listening to the WFAN. Imus, you know about him, but I used
Yeah.
to listen to him before the sports would come on. And my CEO, he came running out, and my real name is Lorraine. So he would be, "Lorraine, turn on the radio." And I'm like, "Andy, what? What's going on?" He said, "A plane hit the World Trade." I'm like, "The plane did what?" So turned on the radio, and all the other employees start coming in because, it's early in the morning. So I'm getting phone calls from people, mothers, fathers, wives. "Is my husband here? Did my son come in?" Blah, blah, blah. So downstairs, we have a gym. So they all went to the gym while I'm answering the calls, and the second plane hit. And when they came upstairs, the looks on their face, and that rest of the day was just chaos. So we had a little meeting. So they was like, "Whoever want to go home, go home." So where I live in New Jersey is not far from the city. It's like I lived in Hackensack at the time. So by train, bus is like 30 minutes, give or take. So they was like, well, you can come and take your kid out, but we don't want them to panic. So I went home. I lived like 10, 15 minutes from the school. After half an hour, I was like, no, I'm going to get my son. So I went and I got my son. And then I just stayed on the phone trying to get through the people that I know because my ex was working now on New Jersey Transit. So I was worried about him and everybody else. But I waited a few days to go into the city. And when I went, you can literally hear a pin drop. The city was so quiet. But the one story I have that made me realize that we as a people are still not respected, the fire department was on 57th Street and 8th Avenue. And I'm always someone that if something happens, I would like to acknowledge it. So I went to a deli and I got some flowers. And I went to the firehouse and I'm like, sorry for your loss. And I mean the coldest reception. But I'm like, they just went something traumatic. Let me not bug out. So I went across the street back to the deli to get a cup of coffee. And there was this white family. And they gave them flowers and it's, oh, thank you, shaking hands, and the whole 9 yards. So I knew as a country that was only going to last for so long, the togetherness and stuff.
Mhm.
But then the next day again, I went down to the site and you can only go so far. And they had all the pictures up. And, the relatives looking for their family members, crying. Have you seen this person, that person, that person? So overall, 9/11 still sticks with me because even if you're from somewhere else, like you guys are from Kansas, I'm not sure where Torin is from,
I'm from
or
Maryland.
anyone in the
I'm from Maryland.
Maryland,
The
okay.
one, like I said, that when I was telling Mo the story with me, mine was
hmm
being close to the Pentagon.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So we all have a connection somehow, somewhere, because it could have been anywhere,
Yeah.
you
Because
know, because,
I think initially one of the planes, if I'm not mistaken, was targeting to go to the White House. I
yes,
think that was one of the targets was the White House, and that was the one I think that
yes,
landed at the Pentagon.
yes. And Spike Lee has a documentary that's out called The Epicenter.
Hmm.
And he compares the COVID, I don't know if I can say that. He compares the sea to 9/11. And
Not
it's on HBO. It's a pretty good documentary.
not to cut
But,
you off. The day
hmm
just I just want to get like a perspective. So the day of, I know you were working in Jersey. Once it
hmm
happened, did they stop letting people into New York or
yeah, they shut down the tunnel. And anybody that had any type of truck, it was getting checked.
hmm
So on the news, you can see where they stopped the Lincoln Tunnel, the Harlem Tunnel. Nobody was able to come in and out. People was walking home from the Brooklyn Bridge because the Brooklyn Bridge is really close to the World Trade Center. So people had to actually just, because I have a cousin, my uncle's by marriage, his brother, his daughter had to walk from Brooklyn Bridge to the Bronx. And I'm originally from the Bronx. That's a good walk. That's at least 2 hours. So people had to figure out a way to get home. They had ships. I'm sorry. They had ships and over by the pier that would take people to New Jersey. And then the people from New Jersey had to figure out how to get back into the city. So that's how
Mhm.
bad it was. But then you hear people say that if you went to say 78th Street and First Avenue, you would never know something was going on. They said people were still outside eating, shopping, and this is just within Manhattan. But if you went to Times Square, you seen everybody looking up and wondering what the heck is going on because all the TVs were being shown. So it was really weird how when you could be in one place and people be experiencing something else. That's why I do recommend that people, if they're interested, to watch as many documentaries on it if you can, because it gives a much more perspective on people that were there, people that lived here in New Jersey, people that lived in Brooklyn. So if you watch a lot of documentaries, you'll hear much more than what the media is going to tell you.
Yeah, I watched the 9/11 Fahrenheit. I watched that one. That was pretty good.
Hmm.
So we have the
Yeah,
flight paths here. So it kind of shows where they started off. Both of them came from Boston. Flight 11 and 77. Well, 77 down here is 93
yeah.
and
It
175.
was actually a movie that came out a few years ago called United 93.
Yeah.
That was talking about
Hmm.
the perspective of what the passengers went through on that plane. And they literally fought
Right.
back to try to
Yeah.
get it. They literally fought back to try to get it. But by the time they was able to kind of get a little bit of control, the plane already took a nosedive. It was no way they were going to be able
Hmm.
to pull that plane back up. When you take that nosedive,
Yeah.
that's it.
And I don't know how they were able to figure out what was going on, but I think from the perspective of the people that were making the phone calls to their relatives, because they supposedly threw coffee, whatever the flight attendants uses, to make coffee. They apparently got that cart and was able to be ready to throw coffee at them.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know what happened, but I think that's the only way they was able to put that together. Another good one is oh, I forget the name of it, but it tells a perspective from some of the firefighters.
Hmm. I seen that one.
That was a good. That's the one with what's the actor name? Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. Oh, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, they had entered the building and they went down into the garage. They ended up getting stuck down there. Yeah, I
Right.
seen that movie.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's the only perspective I can really give from New York. Because, like I said, I was in New Jersey. Um, but the days after, and the firefighting thing I bring up because I still think it's important for us to know that, you know, and okay, another thing is you don't hear a lot of our stories. You know what I'm saying? Like Spike Lee documentary is the only documentary where I hear our people really talking about what they went through. You may have like one or two documentaries that focus on a couple of us. And I was actually thinking of trying to do a podcast on 9/11 with just our stories, but who knows? So,
Yeah, I'm
but
looking at
that's
it
it,
now.
guys.
So it's New York epicenters 9/11
Hmm.
2021 and a half. So it's on
Yeah,
HBO, you all.
yeah,
Let me see. Of course, we can't play it over here. HBO, they definitely.
All
yeah. They'll drop that in a minute. But
So
thank you,
two
Mom. So I'm gonna
episodes.
go freshen up now and keep watching.
All right, thank you for joining.
All
Oh,
right, how do I exit out?
you can just close out of it and it'll X you out.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask you, could you see the tower
Sure.
from Jersey, from where you work?
Yes, not where I live at, where I work, no, because I'm further up like Rockland County. And that's actually where I live at now, a little bit further up from Rockland County. But if I was in Fort Lee or where I did live in Hackensack, I would be able to see it.
Okay. See, I just asked
Yeah.
all these questions. I only been to New York once, so I don't really know
Hmm.
how far everything is from each other.
Well, it depends on where you're at in New Jersey, because if you're in Fort Lee, you're basically right over the GWB. You're right over the George Washington Bridge. So that's a hop, skip, and a jump. But if you're like where I'm at now, further up, you won't be able to see. If I look out my window now, I won't be able to see them.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jersey City is a good place because Jersey City, I mean, you look straight, you can see the towers or where they were. Hoboken, places like that.
Hmm.
But where I'm at now.
That's why you always see me bringing up Google Maps. I got to know where things.
Yes, exactly. Know where everything is at. Exactly.
But thank you for joining us. We're about to go into
Oh,
60-minute videos that they have
yeah.
and some of the demonstrations. But thank
Okay,
you.
guys.
right, you
All
have a
right.
good
Y'all have
one.
a good one. I'll see you in the chat.
All right.
All right.
And the crazy thing about that, Torian, is everyone has a story about something that happened that day. Everyone was affected some way, somehow.
Yeah.
And for those that didn't know, there was more than just the Twin Towers that fell. Trade Center 7 fell, but that one looks a little shaky to me. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So we're going to jump into this 60-minute. But before we do, let me see, we got the flight path. We got the flight paths. The one from Boston hit the tower. The other one from Boston, 175, hit the second tower. Then here's the one that, what was it?
Out of Dulles. That's near Baltimore.
Yeah, I flew out of Dulles before.
Yeah. And that's the one that hit that's the one I said that they were aiming for the White House, but it ended up hitting the Pentagon because I think they got lost or they didn't know what it was. So they just ended up landing at the Pentagon.
And then I mean that whole Pentagon situation had me looking at it a little differently.
Yeah, I know people was saying something that seems kind of fishy about that one too.
Yeah, I mean, they had the construction in that area, and then the footage wasn't a continuous stream. It was like shots. And then the guy on the bridge that witnessed it, he ended up, it's a lot of stuff with that one. But, I mean, let me see. Where's that? I think there was something else at the bottom of this one? Oh, no. So it all started at 7:59 a.m. from Boston.
Yeah,
we got it. Let me see.
En route to LA.
On the morning of September 11th, groups of attackers boarded 4 domestic aircraft, 3 East Coast airports. Soon after takeoff, they disabled the crews and then took control of the aircraft, all large and bound for the West Coast with full loads of fuel. So at 7:59, AA Flight 11 takes from Boston en route to Los Angeles with 92 people. 8:14, so about 15 minutes later, UA Flight 175 takes off from Boston en route to Los Angeles with 65 people. 6 minutes later, American Airlines 77 takes off from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles. 22 minutes later, Flight 93 takes off from Newark, New Jersey, en route to San Francisco with 44 people.
And these are all flights going to the West Coast.
Yeah,
they all going to the West Coast.
Like a whole bunch of fuel in there.
And they all left kind of close in range as far as time goes. Like they weren't big gaps in between each other. Like this was strategically planned.
Yeah, 15 minutes between the first 2 taking off, 6 minutes between the second and third, and then 22 minutes between the third and the fourth plane. So altogether, it was less than an hour. All 4 planes took off.
Yep. Like I said, I was in school for maybe about an hour. Because for me, school started around 8 o'clock. Yeah, around 8 o'clock.
So after 8:42, after the last plane took off at 8:42, 4 minutes later, Flight 11 crashes. So from 7:59 to 8:46, they were only in the air for what? Hours, 59, 9.
About 47 minutes.
Yeah. 43, 47 minutes. Damn. See, I never knew the timelines of when they actually took off. I just knew the times that they had crashed. Because I knew that these were red eyes, but I thought they were leaving maybe like at 6. And I always thought that they were in the air for like an hour or 2. But
now they weren't in the air for that long.
Yeah, see, I never knew that. I always thought growing up, hey, they were probably flying for a while and then they turned. But that was just me not knowing how fast planes were going and how much distance they could cover. And then Flight 175, it took off at 8:14, 9:03. So, yeah, all of these are within 40 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes. United Air's Flight 175 strikes the South Tower. 2 minutes later, George Bush is visiting the second grade classroom. And that's the video we just watched when the guy told him a second plane has hit the tower. America is under attack. at 9:05. So was it 15, 14, 19 minutes from the first one hitting to the second one hitting? That's when he was notified. And then 9:37 for you is when American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the western side of the Pentagon. Minutes later, the Federal Aviation, FAA, ordered the first ever unplanned shutdown of U.S. airspace. All aircraft were ordered to land at the nearest airport.
Yep, that was around that time when, like I said, when I felt like I heard this loud booming sound.
So how far would you say you guys were from the Pentagon if you heard it?
Well, for me,
Or
for me, distance wise to the Pentagon, if you're talking about driving, I would say about 25 minutes.
What was your school called?
G. Gardner Shugart Middle School. It's not in existence anymore though.
I was about to look it up to see. Like, damn, if you heard it there, that's crazy. But
yeah. And I know because at the time, my late grandmother, she was living with me and my family, and she, of course, they heard the boom too, because my school was walking distance from my home. Like I could literally walk to school. Heard the boom just like I did, and she was at home with my mother, and she had got up to go to the door, and my mother told her, said, "Don't go to that door." Like she said, "Get away from the door. Do not go to that door," because they didn't know what it was. So yeah, like I think it's safe to say that, you know, that blast spanned a few miles where we could all hear it and feel it.
And they're saying from the time 9:03 a.m., the South Tower collapsed 56 minutes later. And then at 10:03, 4 minutes after the tower collapsed, UA Flight 93 crashes near Shanksville in Pennsylvania. Now, which was RIP to those passengers, but out of all the wreckage, they said that one of the terrorists' passport book was still visible. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know anything about that, but here you go, Tamika. The link should be in there. Let me see. There you go, Tamika. I do have downloads.
Tom Petrovsky. The wounds of September 11 have been reopened. Tom Petrovsky. The wounds of September 11 have been reopened in the United States with the release of helicopter pictures showing the moment the Twin Towers came down. For the first time, the vision has received widespread coverage in the mainstream media.
As terrified US authorities grounded aircraft across the country, the officers on board this NYPD chopper were given a unique view of the day that changed America. Filming with a handycam in the back seat, the crew flies in close to the Twin Towers, a light that's still standing after impact. They'd hoped to rescue survivors from the rooftops, but there was no one for them to pick up. As New Yorkers ran through the streets, the police chopper landed in a local park. The moment the first building collapsed isn't recorded. The crew is back in the air just moments later.
It's gone! It's the whole tower! It's gone! Holy crap! They knocked the whole freaking thing down!
As smoke and debris engulfed the city, the officers listen in to panicked police radio.
Really, how bad? How would they say?
It was worse than any of them could fathom, with nearly 3,000 victims.
Holy crap! The whole tower is down!
Minutes later, the chopper lands again, filming as the North Tower collapses.
All personnel be advised, the North Tower is down.
Reality finally sets in.
That's it. That's the biggest disaster in the world, probably.
The video, previously leaked to a TV station and now released under Freedom of Information, is getting plenty of airplay.
We have a new perspective on
another reminder of how New York's cityscape and America's sense of security will never be the same. In the United States, Daniel Sutton.
Damn. Here we
And
go.
the thing is, there was no way that it was going to be anybody to get to that roof because of where the plane crashed at. Like that, all of that was destroyed, and that was all on fire. Like, so I imagine all those stairwells, they couldn't climb up there. The only way the only people that had probably a chance of getting out were the ones who were close to the ground. But if you was high up, there was no way you was getting out, because that's too many floors. And because of that, I know they shut down all the elevators because it's an emergency. So you would, like, I know they were like literally probably falling over people trying to get out. But like I said, if you was like near the ground level, you most likely got out because you were like right there. So it was nothing for you to just go down like 1 or 2 flights of stairs. But that's still a lot of people literally all at one time, literally stampeding to get out of that building, and they're panicking. So I can only imagine. That's one thing I would like to see. What was the perspective of the people that were in there trying to get out after the plane crashed? That's one perspective we'll probably never see, though.
Yeah, I mean, especially 2001. So it isn't like anyone had a camera phone, or you know what I mean. They were running through recording, or took the time to actually record on the inside. The fire department, they weren't wearing like body cameras. The police, you know what I mean. The technology just wasn't there, and I would think that anything that was on the inside is destroyed as far as security footage. So you're right. We'll probably never ever get that.
Yeah, and Kendall's right. People were jumping out because they were afraid of being burned alive.
Yeah,
and there's footage of that too. Like that's very hard to watch. Like you can literally see like bodies jumping out of the building.
And thinking about, I mean, in the moment they definitely weren't thinking about that. But the people above the wreckage, they may have been able to make it to the roof. But then again, you got to think the roof access is probably locked. They probably weren't going to be able to get out there anyway. You know what I mean?
And like I said, because the plane had crashed in there, so it was probably it was blocking them from even getting out there, because it was probably nothing but fire there. So it was no way they was going to get out and going through the roof. I mean, if they were able to get to the roof, then they could have saved some people. Because you could kind of get a kind of a clear glimpse of the roof even through the smoke, but like they said, there was nobody there to get.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The people above the actual wreckage, they would have had the doors locked to the roof. You know, you would have to have personnel to actually come unlock that, especially a building that's 105 floors. You know what I mean? So I don't think they would, even if they tried to get up there, it would have been stopped. I got the little diagram here.
Renee said some of the people got out of the second building but was told they could return to the office. What idiot told them to go back? Like, are you serious?
I mean, they didn't know at the time. You can't really call it like, they just thought it was hit, and they thought that these towers, just like the Titanic, they thought the towers were built where they wouldn't fall, and that's where all of the conspiracies come from.
Well, do you remember back in the 90s when there was a bomb put in one of the buildings,
and it withstood it though? So you see what I'm saying? So they were probably thinking once the because with the North Tower and the South Tower, so they were probably telling them, okay, y'all can go back in, because they thought it was just a one-off. Remember, they thought it was initially a smaller plane. Didn't know that it was an actual airline. You see what I'm saying? You got to think, at this time, no one knows anything that's going on. It's just, a plane may have accidentally hit, and they were thinking, all right, fire might get put out.
When I saw like how the building looked after it crashed, I said that was no small plane, because you can tell by the size of the impact that was not a small plane. Like when I saw it, I said that had to be one of those big commercial size planes, and it turns out it wasn't like a little Cessna plane that crashed into the building that probably would have barely did that much damage.
True that. Here goes a little diagram, a 3D diagram that they did, and how it affected the whole building.
Yep, so that's the elevator.
World Trade Center is located in the financial district of Lower Manhattan, New York City. This is the view of the World Trade Center complex today. This is where the old-time and famous Twin Towers were located. The Twin Towers were the world's tallest building from 1971.
What up, Tamika?
What's going on, Tamika?
Hey, what's going on? I just was listening to you. I just got in the house and I'm like, oh, he's talking about 9/11. You know, I don't really watch too much stuff about 9/11. Like when it first happened, I remember watching for hours and hours and hours, and I would watch like the documentaries that was coming out early at that time. Now it kind of be too much for me. But for me, I didn't like see it up close. I saw it on TV. I just came from dropping my son off, and initially with the first plane, it was kind of like thinking that it was an accident, like, oh, how did the plane go into the building? But then it was like I saw the second plane go into the other building right after that, and then you could, definitely tell that the building was about to fall. I remember being in my room screaming, and I woke my sister up because we was just celebrating her birthday the day before. And then I'm trying to get in touch and find out if my brother's okay, because I know he was working down in that area. Like the person that was just up here talking, saying how people had to walk. He had to walk across that Brooklyn Bridge. He was stuck. He saw it. Like, you know, as far as from his angle where he was walking over the bridge. Then we had a cousin that worked there. Well, I actually have two cousins, but one was running late. So she was like stuck in the trains. And I was like, I guess it was a good thing you running late that day. The other one was down in the area, and kind of how is that famous picture of the lady that had all the debris on her. It was like, you know, that's how my cousin was. And she ended up getting sick, having cancer later, like a lot of firefighters and different people did. So like hearing their stories, but me just watching it on TV, I was like, yeah, that building about to fall. Like you were seeing the people jumping out the windows and all that. That was crazy. Like I would definitely never forget that. It's still fresh in my head, like yesterday. And then my sister came running in the room, like, what the heck is going on? Why are you yelling like that? I'm like, the plane just went in the building. So we both were stuck just looking at the TV. And I had to go pick my son, you know, back up from school. And then he was having nightmares, like probably 2 years or something, I would say, around about that. Like almost every night he would be yelling and screaming and saying, oh, a plane came in our building. And I'm like, nah, you good? It's all right. Like he was traumatized. How old was he? Oh, God. I want to say he had to be like, I think he was around 12, 11.
I mean, it's crazy. Even kids, they were affected by it. And
Yeah, definitely. I'm like, nah, you okay? You good? Like, I used to have different nightmares when I was younger. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thinking about when I was running my mother's room talking about Godzilla coming in here. But it was like, he's little, even though he didn't see it, but he heard about it. So it was like, now that's stuck in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was like 12, 13, something like that. But yeah, it definitely was like just traumatizing. It's like, this ain't no movie. This happening in real time. So I definitely would never forget that day at all. Yeah.
Everybody was affected by it. You're more than welcome to join. We're just going to go through like a couple of these videos that I have just so we can look. I'm not going to get into any conspiracies or anything. That we'll be on here all day. We're just going to talk about the event a little bit.
1 to 1973. The height of the North Tower was 1,368 feet and South Tower was 1,362 feet. The One World Trade Center building today is the same height as the North Tower without the spire. Twin Towers each had 110 floors. Let's go back to before 9/11 attack. The whole World Trade Center complex looked very different compared to today.
I know this is random, but a lot of I know y'all probably don't care, but a lot of people, when it comes to the world's tallest buildings, they get upset about people putting antennas and stuff on top of the building. So there's like different regulations that they can count that'll go on to the top of buildings. I know that's random, but that's just what I'll be watching. So, so there's actually guidance to how you can rate how tall your building is. It's weird, but I just had to point that out.
This was Building 7, Building 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, also known as Twin Towers. Under the ground, there was a layer of slurry wall around this complex. It was used to prevent water from the Hudson River going through the soil and flood the construction site. There were 6 levels of floors under the ground. The foundation of the Twin Towers went 70 foot deep down to the bedrock. This is the core of the building, running from the bedrock to the top of the building. The core contains 47 steel columns. Let's take a look inside the core. It has restroom, utility rooms, a lot of elevators, but only 3 emergency stairwells. This is the exterior steel column of the buildings. This is a floor system. It was made of lightweight steel and concrete. All of these parts held the building together in place. The Twin Towers are said to withstand earthquake and hurricane wind power.
Hurricane wind power.
2 hijacked Boeing 767 heading toward the World Trade Center. First plane crashed into the North Tower from the north face. Second plane crashed into the South Tower from the south face.
Yeah, that's the clip I always kept seeing in rotation. That one right there.
Yeah, that right there. Man, that's wild, man.
Yeah.
The crash into the North Tower destroyed the entire floor, including inside the core. Fire spread everywhere. All elevators stopped working and all 3 emergency stairwells also destroyed. 1,355 people at or above the point of impact were trapped and none survived. The crash into the South Tower slightly tilted to the side, leaving 1 stairwell to stay intact, allowing a very few people to escape successfully. But more than 600.
Well, they said some did escape from up here, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were very fortunate that they were able to get out. Because I was looking at it like how like it was crashing, like in the first one right there, it was near the top. So like I said, like there's no way anyone could have, like if they wanted to get to the roof, like they wasn't going to be able to get up there. And then the other one was more in the middle. So yeah. And then they said the fire, like I think like literally it exploded when it got in there, and literally the fire is like going all different directions. It's not just in one spot.
Right.
And if you look at the time, it strikes the tower at 9:03. It collapses 56 minutes later. So
that's a lot of time that it's burning.
Yeah.
So it's literally melting, like that steel is melting.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what caused the collapse, because it was melting everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing with the conspiracy. They said that jet fuel doesn't get hot enough to melt steel. That's a fact too. I know that one. But
or they probably had something on that plane to help it burn that was more than just jet fuel.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't even want to go into the whole conspiracy theory thing.
Yeah, see, that was my thing. I like, man, we're just gonna talk about 9/11. We're gonna not talk about.
I'm gonna just leave that thought up here.
But what I was saying, from the 66th floor, let's just say they was like, because they said people from where it actually crashed, because it went sideways, probably if it went head on, it probably would have did more damage. But 56 minutes to go down about 66 flights. Hey, this is life or death here. So they moving. That's a long way to go.
It sure is, because them buildings as far as I don't know what.
Yeah, that's a lot, and like I said, that's a lot of people going down the steps at one time. It's not like they're just leaving for a regular day. And even if they were, they would just take the elevator anyway. They wouldn't think about taking down those stairs. But yeah, all those people at one time, they're all panicking. I know their hearts are racing, like probably about to beat out of their chest. They are sweating. Like and also imagine if some people had disabilities. Right. Where were they going to go?
Mm-hmm. That's a fact, because when it's like them stampedes, just let's just say like a flat area. When people running, you get moved whatever direction they running in. Okay, you ain't got no control over. That's how some people ended up getting stopped. I was in a situation like that before, and they literally lifted me off the ground, and I was moving the way that they was moving. So I can't even imagine you trying to run down some damn stairs.
Yeah.
I walked up the Eiffel Tower, but I took the elevator down. Man, let me tell you, that's a lot of walk.
Yeah, and then on top of that, we don't know, because I was never fortunate to go inside the World Trade Center. We don't know. Well, Tamika, have you ever been inside of it?
No,
Okay.
I haven't. I haven't been inside the Statue of Liberty. I haven't been inside. If I say a lot of people like to go for them, I'm good. I don't like heights, so
okay.
If you saying this the tallest, I'm like, I believe you enjoy yourself.
Right. The reason I was asking was because we don't know what the width of those stairwells were. We don't know if they were wide or if they were narrow. Now I know because as a I went to the Statue of Liberty years ago, and they have an elevator in there. They also have stairs in there. The stairs in the Statue of Liberty are very narrow to the point where you cannot fit two people standing next to each other. It's literally one. Like it's literally one person in front of the other because it's so narrow. So I don't know how wide the stairwells were in the towers, but I can only imagine that no matter how wide or narrow they were crowded that day. They were packed. Exactly. So you got to think people weren't probably all running down like they were, but they were probably all bunched up like this. So they would probably struggle. Some people probably fell down, tumbled down the steps, trying to get out of there.
Yeah, I could definitely imagine that. I know that I've been at the bottom, but I just never went up to the top. I know Empire State, theirs is kind of narrow too. I would think these is probably not that wide.
Yeah, looks like about 2-person wide width.
Yeah. And also, like Rainey said in the chat, she said, and water and fire and oil will on the steps. So people are probably slipping on those steps. Yeah, so it's probably some people that made it out, but they probably had injuries trying to get out of there. Like they probably fractured something. Some may have broken something. So yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why I said the people who were near the ground level, they were pretty much good. They didn't have to struggle to get out. They were already on that ground floor. But the rest of them who did make it out, fortunately, they had to go through some stuff to get out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot.
100 people were still trapped above and couldn't survive. Let's take a look at the burning floor in this simplified view. The heat expanded and sagged the floor truss. It pushed the steel column off of the alignment. Steel columns of the core also melted and deformed.
That's what I just said.
An hour of burning, the steel structure became weakened. They no longer can support the weight load of the upper part of the building. The upper part crashed down and tore apart everything in the lower part. The collapse is said to cause earthquake in the area of up to 2.3 magnitude.
Yeah.
That was one of the most tragic days in the history of the United States. Thank you for watching this video. If you find this interesting, subscribe to
that's what I thought.
My name is Lucius, and
I thought because it was burning so long that it most likely melted it. But the thing that they pointed out too was that from the impact of the crash, it bent the steel to the point where it wasn't solid anymore. You take
you literally could see the top shaking back and forth. It was like it's no way.
Yeah, it was gonna buckle. It was gonna fall regardless.
Damn, I got a little 60-minute clip. I mean, it's a long one. I'm probably not gonna play the whole thing, but we'll just touch on some of the main parts. Man, overall, I ain't gonna lie to you, I wouldn't have known what to do in that situation.
Yeah, some people probably like I said, the people who jumped out of the building, they accepted their fate. They just didn't want to burn alive. I mean, it is, but could you imagine if you were a family member getting that call from a loved one saying, I'm in this building, I don't think I'm gonna make it out. These are my final words, and so on and so forth. And then imagine they're still talking to you and the line disconnects before they're done talking. I'm sure that's what plenty of them.
Yeah, a lot of people
had. Those were literally people are on the phone with their loved ones saying their last words.
Yeah. I know on the hijacked planes, you have some people have the voicemails that they the family members.
So sad.
On 9/11, Dr. Benjamin Luff prepared Stony Brook University Medical Center on Long Island for the massive number of casualties he expected to overwhelm the emergency room. But none came through the door that day. So few had survived. As it turned out, Dr. Luff's casualties were coming, but they would arrive much later. Although nearly 3,000 people were killed at the World Trade Center, 70,000 others responded to Ground Zero and worked for months amid toxic smoke and dust. Dr. Luft helped start a clinic to treat the chronic illnesses and psychological trauma suffered by the 9/11 responders. Over time, Luft discovered something that he never expected. He began to hear their stories. Honest, raw, irreplaceable stories. And almost 2 years ago, he began to record the definitive history of Ground Zero, remembering 9/11 in the words of the people who lived it.
The problem that came up was that our society began to look at the responders in terms of their disease. They became an issue in terms of their liability.
So he's just going to be talking about all the medical effects. Now, I know we're going to be jumping around and probably skip through some of this, but Congress did pass a bill, and I think it was 2011 or maybe like 10 or something, but they only passed it for, it was giving medical coverage to everyone that was affected by it, but you only had 5 years to claim it. So it kind of sucked to the people that were actually up there and affected by anything. I just want to throw that out there. So I mean, Congress, they kind of helped, but they didn't really do much.
Also, too, there was something else that came out of this as well that I'm surprised we didn't even bring up yet, considering I'm sure most of us have traveled before, and that was the advent of TSA. You know, that's what came out of this after the fact, because I can't even remember, because I remember going like traveling to Dallas back in the 90s for my spring break, and I can't remember how the security process was for that time, because now it's so far removed from that you're used to seeing.
Oh
TSA
yeah, it's
now.
a whole different ball game. Yeah, John Stewart was fighting for a lot of them firefighters, EMS, all of that for years, because certain things they was really horrible with taking care of them.
They still trying to fight to get something out of it.
And my feeling was that that's not who.
And he's got bones in his hands.
Sacrifices they made, how they were able to renew themselves. It was almost like taking a civics class as to what is important about being a citizen. What is important about being a human being? What is important to being an American?
I worked at the makeshift morgue. We took in all the bodies. You know, saying I'm sorry for your loss was very difficult, because it almost got to be like rote, you know.
Stacy Goodman, a police detective,
Yeah, I couldn't have had that job.
Dr. Luft recorded in what is now called the World Trade Center Oral History Project.
At one point, this senior, I think he was a retired fireman, he comes in, his hands are cupped, and he's got bones in his hands. And he goes over to the medical examiner, he puts the bones in front of him. He goes, "This is my son." What do you say to that?
No one could possibly know 9/11 the way these people do.
No.
We asked several of the responders to give us a sense of the hours of testimony that they've put into Dr. Luft's project.
The debris and the people rushing out at us, I couldn't even make it to Tower 1. I made it to the base of Tower 2.
Carol Paulkner was a cop on the scene before the towers fell.
This big, brawly FBI guy had his shield around his neck. And I looked up at him, and he's telling there's about 6 officers there with me. And he's like, if you want to live, you might as well leave now. He said, we're all going to die. I'm like, we can't leave. I'm not leaving. And the officers that I were there with, we're not leaving either. And we continue to evacuate and do our jobs. But, you know, we were all like, wow, we're going to die, you know?
Paulkner was trapped when the first tower collapsed. That's her on the left. after she pulled herself out of the wreckage.
Damn.
She's with a fellow cop and a woman that they rescued.
I was one of the guys that was able to pull somebody out alive.
So few were saved, but Police Sergeant Richard Doyler helped pull out one rare survivor, a fellow cop named John McLaughlin.
They were giving giving John McLaughlin morphine because the plan was that if we couldn't extricate him, they were going to cut his legs off. John screamed in pain when we pulled him initially, so we let him rest, and we simultaneously pulled again, and we broke him free. And pulled him out.
And John wasn't trying to lose them legs. John said, "Hold on, give me a second. Y'all gonna have to pull me out of here. Give me."
Yeah, because there was some, which was very few, but it was some that was actually stuck in there, and he had to be there for a minute so they could figure out how to get home. Man.
Yeah, like I was like reading, some people were stuck in there for like well over a week before they could actually get them out. Like imagine being stuck down there for a week and you have no food or no water, and the fact that you still survive, like you had the will to want to live. Like I couldn't imagine the amount of physical and mental therapy they had to go through after this. Like some of them probably are still going through it today, 22 years later. Like every time this date rolls around, it literally is a trigger point for them. They probably wish that this is a day they can just skip, like they can go from September 10th to the 12th. And some of them probably can't even bring themselves. Some, if they're from there, some of them probably moved from there just to get away from it. They probably can't bring themselves to go back to the state of New York, not even have to be around where it happened, but just be in the state of New York anymore, because of what happened.
Man, I was an emergency responder, but I never responded to anything like this. This right here has been tough, but I definitely would have been there helping though. I mean, of course, at the time I was only 16, but
I was 12. I was 12 when that happened.
Oh no, I was 16. Damn.
And it's, what's so crazy too, not to really like shift gears, but what's crazy about this is that literally 2 weeks prior, we had another tragedy that involved the plane, and that was Aaliyah, because she died on August 25th, 2 weeks before. Again, another plane, even though that was a Cessna plane, but she and the other people on that plane, they died. And it's crazy. It was like, what is really, going on here? What's going on with planes? That was another thing that played around in my head as a kid back then was, wow, we just lost Aaliyah 2 weeks ago. And now we have this, and it's another, it's more planes, and this time it's multiple planes. Like that was playing in my head as a 12-year-old at the time.
Yeah, it gets you thinking, man. You start wondering about everything at that point because you really don't know.
Yeah, and I always had a fear of flying, so that happening did not help my fear at all.
Right.
I used to always be like, I'm good on flying. That's for birds. In these recent years, I just started getting on planes. I was like, there's certain places I want to get to that I'm not going to get to if I don't fly, but I'm not a heights person, so that did not help. I was like, see, this is why I don't want to get on a plane.
Yeah, I forgot when was the next time I got on a plane. After that, it was probably a few years after that it had happened.
Yeah, I mean, I only flew one time before this, so I mean, I was looking at it like, I don't really be on planes like that. I flew from Kansas City to Minnesota. I didn't fly after that till maybe 2004 was maybe my second flight when I started working.
And another thing that I also thought of too, even though this was the year before, was I thought of the movie Final Destination, the first Final Destination movie, because it was the premonition death, a plane crash, well, it exploding, not crashing, but exploding.
What up, Michael?
Yeah, that was a crazy time, man. And I mean, I was a nurse for 20 years, but I don't think I would have been able to handle some of the stuff that they had to handle, because not only the people that got lost, which that's horrible enough, but you figure you got to have the cops, the EMS, doctors, nurses, and firefighters and all these people that's trying to save lives and take care of people. That's not easy either. I was glad that I wasn't working when COVID was around because I felt like I wouldn't be able to handle that, because I've seen some traumatic things just in an everyday, type of trying to help patients just what was supposedly normal. But it was still crazy to me. So I was like, I know I wouldn't have been in the frame of mind. So God bless them that had to do it and did a good job.
Yeah, I think the pandemic messed me up. But I mean, I responded to Ebola. So I would have, if I was active, I guess since I wasn't doing anything, that's what kind of messed with my head with all the pandemic. But like I said, I responded to Ebola. I was on the Ebola crisis team. So I was fine with it. I guess it was just me, I don't know, I guess being wary of people around me because I just didn't trust people. So that's why I really stayed in the house. And that's when I started going live a lot. And that's how YouTube actually took off. But but I would have been here. For me, I like to respond to this kind of stuff. I would have been there.
Boy, take some nice deep breaths.
Benjamin Luft is a medical doctor who volunteered to help create a clinic for the 9/11 responders at Stony Brook University Medical Center, part of the State University of New York. More than 6,000 responders enrolled in his World Trade Center health program. One study shows that nearly a third of those who worked at Ground Zero have asthma. 42% suffer with sinusitis. Nearly 40% have gastroesophageal reflux disease, known as GERD. And many have reactive airways dysfunction syndrome that the patients just call RADS.
When you're a physician and you see patients, you tend to reduce
I wonder where
them
they're doing fit tests
to their
back then.
symptoms and signs, to their medical conditions, and that's how you think of them.
Luft listened to their stories in the examining room for 8 years when he realized that his patients were the authors of one of the most dramatic chapters of American history.
What up, the
Your
hood?
story of what happened on 9/11.
She became hysterical. She had got a cell phone call that her the Trade Center was hit with a plane.
With his own money, a few donations, and a small, mostly volunteer staff, Luft started his interviews. So far, he's recorded 137.
When the building imploded down, it blew me out of the building, and I was able to hold on to the doorway with my left arm.
The first thing I found was
Damn.
an entire body burned into rebar.
They put a line around our waist. I'm like, well, I'm going in this way. I'm snaking around on my belly around. I says, there's no way you can pull me out. And the guy just looked at me. It wasn't to pull us out.
Yeah.
It was just to find us if we died. Yeah.
Where we expected to see two tall buildings, we just saw a skeleton.
And then you just got to go in there. It's not to pull you out, it's to find you. That's different, man. You got to.
And it's and it's crazy too. Like when you think about like this all happened in one day. It's not like something that spanned multiple days, but look at what came from that. We ended up in a whole war that lasted years behind this. We ended up in a whole war that lasted like 5 or 6 years behind this.
Yeah. I mean, that started off everything, man.
Yeah.
They just now pulling troops, last year? So, yeah, I mean, this thing going on for decades. Damn, man. I'm trying to, I couldn't even imagine that. I mean, I know the risk of entering into a scene, but knowing that they trying to tie you up so they can find you.
Yeah, it got to the point where like after when 9/11 happened, like there wasn't a day that couldn't go by that you did not see a segment on it for at least almost a whole year. Like at least from that day all the way to the 1 year anniversary in 2002, there was always coverage about it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh no, man.
That's crazy.
That just made me think, man. If I had to respond to that, man, that's crazy. I I'd have been in level. I don't know, man. That right there, I don't know. Kind of thinking about it now, I'd probably be nervous, but I know I would do it.
Would you have had a choice, or it would have been mandatory?
Oh, it definitely would have been mandatory. If you turn this down, oh, there's no talking. You going to jail. But I mean, I would have volunteered for it though. I always volunteered to respond. I'd rather be on the respond team than doing the mathematical equations and everything to figure stuff. I'd rather go and do the responding.
I don't know why I said my son. I'm sorry, this is don't even got nothing to do with what we just talk about, but I don't know why I said my son was like 11 when this happened. I think I'm just 9/11 was just stuck in my head. He was like 6 years old, probably. That just popped in my head just now. I don't know what I was thinking about, but yeah. Listen, I mean, yeah, that's the part of it though. Once you are in the medical field and the army and the military, police, whatever, and things like this happen, you gotta go do what you gotta do. I had a lot of my family, especially my dad's side, because they in the military heavy anyway, that all went, to fight after this happened. So it was just like they spent the majority of their lives there. Like this whole thing happened.
I wonder how the response was to the people that were in different airports around the establishment, as I like to call it. Because I know they put the news out there in all those other airports when this was going on. They had to.
Oh,
They
yeah.
shut down everything.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me see if they show what time everything shut down.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that were stranded and trying to get everything together. And like people that were stuck even in the subways. I couldn't have did that. I don't like taking subways. Y'all notice I don't like a lot of things. I've taken them, but I don't like that being underground. And
So it says at 9:30 in the morning. So that means it's only 6 a.m. in California. This is when they shut everything down. Minutes later, FAA is ordered to first ever unplanned shut down airspace. So this is only 8 here, 7 and 6. So yeah, like, man, imagine hearing that in California. You getting ready to board your airplane at 6:30 in the morning. They tell you, well, no, everything is done. 2 planes just hit the tower. Plus, what time did it hit the Pentagon and stuff?
it wasn't that long after, right?
Okay, the Pentagon was at, so it's right when it hit the Pentagon at 9:37. Minutes later, that's when they shut it down. So about 9:40 in the morning is when they shut it
And
down.
also, let me put into perspective for you. The Pentagon is I guess you could say the Pentagon is damn near next door to a major airport, the Reagan National Airport in DC. The Pentagon is right, like literally almost next door from each other, because both of them are in Arlington, Virginia. They're like right there, like neck and neck with each other. Like if I had to say, like drive wise, it'll probably take you about 5 minutes to get from the Pentagon to that airport. Now, granted, that plane did not fly out of Reagan. It flew out of Dulles, which of course is in Baltimore, near Baltimore, which is about an hour away from Reagan, going north.
So 6:40 in the morning, they shut it all down. Man, now that right there would have been scary also.
What's that?
You at the airport and they're like, hey, everything is done. Plane just hit the tower. Well,
Yeah, imagine, like you said, imagine the people on the plane, and it's like literally like you feel like, oh, we about to go somewhere, and it's like, oh, we got to shut everything down, and then you tell them why that is. I couldn't imagine being on those planes. I would like, open up one of these little small tiny windows. I'll climb through that. Don't even have to worry about opening up the emergency door. I'll climb through one of these little square windows, especially at my age at the time. I would have been able to fit myself right on through that thing and climb right on out of it.
And I'm just looking at the timeline. So this is at let's just say 9:40 is when they shut all that down. 20 minutes later, the fourth plane. Remember, there was still another plane that crashed in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So you're really thinking, I was about to board a plane and take off. So no one knows anything at
And
this
also on top of that, like, I wonder, even to this day, where was that plane headed? Because of course, it crashed in Pennsylvania was not where it was going to go. Like they were not going to crash into some random open field. They were going for another building, but we'll never know what building they were going for.
I mean, they got the documents. They know where all of these planes were going. They knew months before this happened that something like this was going to happen. That's all unclassified. They knew something, but they just didn't act on it. Because let me see, I can find the documents.
The White House.
I think the one that was coming from Dulles was going to the White House. The one that they said crashed at the Pentagon. I don't know where that one that landed in PA. I don't know where that one was going.
Right.
You know me, I'm gonna go get y'all the information. But this is on the justice.org right here. It's redacted and unclassified. The FBI's handling of intelligence information concerning two of the September 11th hijackers, Khalid al-Mahir, Nauf al-Hizm, I can't pronounce these, and three other terrorists hijacked and crashed American Flight 77 into the Pentagon. The FBI, they learned it in late August of 2001 that they were operatives, and they had traveled to the United States in January of 2000. So they knew about.
So they knew about them. Like they was already like on their watch list.
They were on the watch list. They were taking flights. They were learning how to fly planes.
That's
but
great.
they never learned how to land. And one of the FAA instructors reported that. So they knew that something was going to happen, and they were getting the information. But at this time, like I said, this is 2000. It's not like how we're on high alert at all times now. Back then, no one was thinking anybody would do something like this. Now we know that there's people that will go to the extremes.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, they're just learning how to. That's what they really wrote it off as. They're just learning how to fly planes. And it says, look, the FBI discovered that M had entered the United States July 4th for a month-long stay. In August, the FBI initiated an investigation to determine whether he was still in the country to find him. The FBI was still searching for him when September 11th happened. So they were looking for the guy before it happened. So the FBI, they had the information. They were doing their job. It's not like they weren't doing anything. Look, here we go. We examined the information from the intelligence community and the FBI about those two prior to September 11th. We found no evidence indicating the FBI or any member of the intelligence community had specific intelligence regarding September 11th plot. However, beginning in late 99 and continuing through September 11th, we found 5 junctures at which the FBI either learned of intelligence information about the two, could have learned of additional intelligence information about them, or could have developed additional information. So the CIA in March of 2000, they found out that he traveled to Los Angeles.
Which is where one of the flights was supposed to go.
Exactly. They were seeing how they were graphing things out. It says in late 2000 of January, the two both traveled to Los Angeles, then moved to San Diego, where they associated with former subject of FBI investigation, who also lived there with a long-time FBI asset. Now that means they had somebody that was giving inside information.
On inside information, like an informant.
Exactly. So this is January of 2000.
So like I said, this was almost pretty much almost 2-year operation.
Yeah. So they were just piecing together everything, but they didn't know it was going to be to something to this magnitude. You see what I'm saying? Like, all right, maybe they were probably thinking we got all this information. Of course, they were trying to find the other gentleman, but they probably figured we got this much information. We're ahead of the situation. But
knowing how Hollywood is, I'm surprised no one tried to make a movie about this, about the planning of this, because you know they love to make a good story for something like this. I mean, we've already seen everything what happened on the day, but we never saw the planning process that they took to lead up to that.
I'm sure as more information, because they continue to release more and more information,
Mhm.
you know, because here it says, check this out. In late December 2000, early 2001, a reliable FBI CIA source provided information related to the FBI's ongoing investigation attack on the USS Cole. So there was already an attack that they had information on that could potentially be linked to what eventually became 9/11. Summer of 2001, the CIA and FBI had various interactions regarding the FBI's investigation of the Cole attack. These interactions touched on the participants in January of 2000 Malaysia meetings and informed developed by the CIA and Malaysia meetings. So even when you go back the summer, they realized that back in January, there was these meetings going on a whole year ago in Malaysia.
That's a long document.
Oh yeah, it's a lot, man. But I mean, I keep up with this. My family had, you know, saying some minor setbacks because of everything that happened. But so I mean, I just look and read up on it all the time. Well, not all the time, but from here and there. Because my uncle got arrested for this, for 9/11. So they held him for about a couple years, I think maybe 2 years. But he didn't have anything to do with it. They hit him with other charges. And that's why I'll be showing that ESPN clip of my cousin trying to go to NFL and why the Giants got rid of my cousin because of his father's alleged ties, because he went to the same mosque as one of the gentlemen. But so for me, you know, it's like my uncle was locked up for this stuff. So when I read it, I try to figure out what was really. That's why I found out and went and did my research to look back. Like, man, they've been having information, and it's just fucked up.
Yeah, a lot of times they be already getting intel, but it's just like, a matter of how much stuff they get, what they can prove is actually some accurate stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to show y'all that they knew that they were taking pilot lessons. It's a Cole investigation. Same day Mary wrote. No, not that. Oh, well, see, look. They were tracing him everywhere. They said in March of 2000, they knew about him going. He boarded a United Airlines flight in Bangkok, Thailand, bound for Los Angeles again.
And one of the flights was a United Airlines flight.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I said, this was very calculated. Like from where they were going, the type of plane they got on. You said they took flight lessons. You said they just didn't learn how to land. Yeah, like this was a very calculated. It wasn't something they just woke up one day and said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to hijack these planes and we're going to go crash them into some buildings." No, this was very planned out and very strategic. And the thing is, they were just the fall guys. They had a whole nother person or people they had to answer to. I mean, we found out who that was, but I mean, but yeah.
See, all of this was just released from the Department of Justice 20 hours ago. Oh, here we go. And look how close it was. In August of 2001, Musini enrolled in flight training lessons at the school in Minneapolis, Minnesota. On August 15th, the flight school reported his suspicions about Musuni to the FBI, including that he only wanted to learn how to take the plane off. learn how to take off and land the airplane, that he had no background in aviation, that he had paid cash for the course. The FBI interviewed the instructor, his roommate, and then Muzain, the INS and FBI detained Muzi, I don't know how to pronounce his name, for his violation of immigration status and seized his belongings. See, this is the one he didn't get on the plane.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was looking at like I can see why they was questioning like why would he pay in cash? That doesn't sound like something you would pay in cash. And I was just like looking it up, and they said usually like they said there's 10 ways you can pay for flight lessons, and cash ain't one of the 10. And then they said that he wanted to only learn how to take off and land. Like I'm like, yeah, my suspicions would have been raised too, because it's more than just taking off and landing a plane. You got to do stuff before you even learn how to take off on a plane.
And look, they said it was August 15th, a month before it happened.
Yeah, a little over a month before. Yep.
That's what I'm saying. They had the information. Now this is one time where like it was really they were just one step behind. That's really what this one was. Because they were getting the information and they were following up because they did the interview, and it says here they were trying to get Minneapolis wanted to obtain a warrant to search his computer and other belongings that were seized.
They were probably sitting in the back of their minds like, wow, I can't believe it's this easy. They were probably in the back of their mind, like when they was having their meetings, they were probably mocking them. They was probably like saying, those dumb Americans, I can't believe they're falling for this. That's probably what they were saying. They were probably like, there's no level of suspicion. It's this easy. They probably like, no wonder people can just come right on in.
And then it says here, however, the September 11th terrorist attacks occurred while the FBI was in the process of finalizing the deportation plans. So see, they had all the steps going in progress, doing it by the book. It was just too slow.
Just think, all of that.
That's why they go so much harder now. You can't really blame them for going hard when you hear that this stuff like this was getting passed. I mean,
and yeah, that's why we say when the feds look, they got the information. Trust me, if they had all of this information about a terrorist attack, that little time that they gonna figure that out instantly. Just give them a second, they're gonna figure it out. Because everyone's gonna mess up.
yeah.
So that was the Minnesota one. They said in late February 2001, he enrolled in a beginner pilot course at the Airman Flight School in Norman, Oklahoma. He did not complete the training and stopped taking lessons there late in May of 2001. However, he remained in the U.S. after dropping out of the course and overstayed his allowed length of stay. So you get the 90 days without a visa. He legally entered February 23rd. So if he entered February 23rd legally into the United States in Chicago using a French passport. He entered under the visa waiver program, which allows citizens of 27 countries, including France, to enter without a visa staying up to 90 days. His entry was valid till May 22nd. Now look at this. It says he entered February 23rd. Now, I'm not the brightest, but I think there's only 28 days. And they said in late February, he enrolled in school. So, like, as soon as he flew into Chicago, 2, maybe 3 days later, or maybe the next day, he ended up in Oklahoma and enrolled in courses. That's how fast they were moving. There's only 5 days from the time he entered in Chicago to the end of the month. And they said in late February. So the 24th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Right.
Wow.
Then, so he dropped out the lessons here. Listen to this. May of 2001, he dropped out the lessons. May 23rd, he emailed Pan America about a private aviation school. So as soon as he stopped that, he went straight to an airline and was talking to them about aviation schools. He
That's
enrolled in a
good.
flight simulator training course at Pan Am America. That's where we just at, up in August. And it was August 15th when it. So this is 6 days after. August 9th, he enrolled. Up here it says on August 15th. So 6 days later, they notified the FBI. So they working.
Yeah, they did what they were supposed to do.
The FBI was now, like Tamika said, now we see why the FBI goes so hard when it comes to stopping these cases, because they were literally one step behind. Maybe if they would have apprehended him like a week before, he could have gave information, or they could have went through his stuff and found out information. So the feds were working. Technology obviously wasn't as advanced as it is now.
Exactly. Right.
It'd probably take a while. Now
that was like the perfect storm for them.
Yeah.
And I remember when this first happened, one of the questions I had asked when the 1 year anniversary was coming up, because I think it was a question everybody was asking, is like, do you think they're going to try something again on this day?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think when the 1 year came around, everybody was on alert.
Yeah.
Oh man, so hold on. There's more information than it is. Let me see. All right, so it says he completed 2 days of classroom instruction and 1 flight simulator training session to fly 747 out of a scheduled 4 or 5 sessions. So he only completed 2 days out of 4 or 5 sessions. When a manager contacted the FBI about him on August 15th, the manager called FBI's Minneapolis field office to report that he and coworkers were training a student who they considered suspicious. Of course, said he wanted to learn how to take off and land a plane, given the reason that it was an ego boosting thing. In addition, they said it was an ego boosting thing. So he was in there like, yeah, I'm gonna learn how to fly and take off and land. In addition to the FBI, they learned he had no background in aviation, had no private license. He was also unusual. He paid $8,000 to $9,000 in cash for the course. They reported he appeared to be Middle Eastern. He grew up in France. The manager said that he had completed 2 days of classroom instruction and was scheduled for 4 or 5 in the flight simulator. Now it's saying the agent. So look, it's the agent that took the phone call. He was assigned to FBI's international and domestic terrorism squad. So they directed him right to the terrorists. They knew exactly, hey, this is who needs to take this. So we got to give the FBI credit, even though, I ain't got no problem with the FBI. I'm just saying, I know people.
This is the person who started it.
But they working. They may have did some fucked up things in the past, but they do some things right.
Like I said, except the person who started it.
Yeah.
As I gave him the nickname of J. Etna Hoover. I'm sure if you do your research, you know exactly why I called him that.
Yeah, we don't know. They never found that flight 370.
Yeah, we ain't heard nothing about that. I remember when it happened. The ocean is vast. I don't know. Well, if I see anything else, I'm gonna be looking it up while we finishing up some of these videos here of our first responders.
The most powerful nation in the world. How could this happen?
There's no clearer rendition of what happened at 9/11 than our these histories. Who are these people? So, of course, we have the firemen and the policemen and the EMS workers. And then we have the volunteer firemen. And then you have the iron workers and the construction workers and the laborers. On 9/11, all Americans responded from all walks of life.
I was a senior in high school. Realized that I have to go down there. I don't know how I'm going to help. I don't know what it can do.
My whole family is cops. I'm the 13th in my family to be a New York City police officer.
I am a licensed massage therapist. I just felt like I had to be down there helping these people, knowing what I do for a living can help these people.
I work for the New York City Highway Department. I, road work, construction, stuff like that. Never trained for anything like this. And I learned quick, though.
We spent a few hours with some of the responders at Stony Brook University. And as we listened, we realized that for them, today, Sunday, isn't the 10th anniversary of something that happened. It's the 10th year of something that never ends. In a sense, it's always 9/11. John Gallagher is a former New York City fire captain suffering with pulmonary fibrosis, scarring of the lungs that only gets worse.
The World Trade Center is still claiming lives. People have had their lives shortened. People have lost their fathers, their mothers, to cancers, to lung diseases, anything that you can imagine, bloodborne diseases. People are still dying.
Show of hands, how many of you have been living through medical problems as a result of the work that you did in those days? Almost all of you.
That's like 80% of the room.
Of what you've been working through health-wise.
I have asthma. I have nodules on both lungs, sinusitis, rhinitis.
Bill Fisher was a New York City cop, now retired.
I never smoke. I don't drink. I go to the gym as often as I can, and it's not as much as I would like to anymore. I literally have a bucket of about 20 medicines, a plastic bucket, that I have to take something during the day.
This is Bill Fisher. He worked at Ground Zero for 4 months, and like thousands of others, he was covered in dust that contained carcinogens, asbestos, and toxins too numerous to list. Ken George was there too. He helped recover human remains. Ken, what has your health experience been?
Oh, I got a list.
Everybody's got a list, it sounds like.
It started with the 9/11 cough I had, which led me to have RADS, restricted airway disease, which means I can't get enough oxygen in or out. Like people said, the sinuses, I have all that. So it's just snowballing out of control. You know what I mean? And who knows, in 5 years down the line, if I'm going to wind up with cancer. You know, I just want to make sure my family's taken care of if anything happens. You know, I don't want them out in the street.
Any pain?
Paying their medical bills has been a struggle. Funding for the World Trade Center health program was never certain until this year, when Congress guaranteed coverage. But that guarantee lasts only the next 5 years.
Yes,
the illnesses and the mental trauma are likely to last a lifetime.
One thing nobody's mentioned, but we all have it, it's like luggage and we have it forever, is the post-traumatic stress.
That's what I said like earlier. They got to deal with that for the rest of their life.
From the World Trade Center, he reached the towers before they collapsed.
Those of us who wear uniforms make a living out of the worst 10 minutes of everybody's lives. 9/11 was a hell of a lot longer than 10 minutes long. Post-traumatic stress is something that I have a issue with. Spent a month after.
Wait, pause it right quick, Mo.
Floor trying to feel,
because he said something that just just literally just stuck to me. These are a lot of people who, in their profession, are literally fighting fires and saving people out of burning buildings and trying to save as many lives as they can, and probably have come across bodies themselves and trying to save homes and whatever they can all the time. That was something routine for them that they trained for. But that one incident was nothing compared to what they've dealt with before then. That one thing literally changed their entire trajectory of life going forward, whether they decided to stay in those fire departments or continue to work. And the thing is, you got to think, they mentally have to deal with what happened on 9/11 while still helping other people in other situations. Because guess what? 9/11 is like taxes. Yeah, it happened, but guess what? It's going to be a million other things that's going to happen behind it. And you got to wrap your mind around the fact wow, I went through all of this for days and months at a time, but I still got to go out there and do what I was trained to do prior to a 9/11 even being a thing, while still having that play in the back of my head all these years later. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Just like when the pandemic hit, Uncle Sam didn't care that you wasn't working. you better have them taxes and you better have them bills be paid on time.
The damn pandemic, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. That thing was boxing with my brain, man. I used to toss and turn in my sleep at night. For real. Man, I ain't like going to get my mail from the mailbox. Cause I respond to all that. Suspicious packages and I like, man. This shit
Yeah.
horrible, bro.
I think that did a number on all of us because you ain't know really what it was coming from, what was happening. You hearing this, you hearing that. And like I said, me working in the hospital, we used to have like the contamination rooms where we had to put on the full gear. And I always hated going in those rooms, but it was like I have to go in there.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure your mask and your head is covered, your feet is covered, and do all this different stuff before you go in the room, when you're coming out the room. And that was intense for me back then when we didn't have the COVID. I used to be like, I gotta go in this room and trying to make sure I'm taken care of, trying to make sure the patient's taken care of. So that's why I said kudos to them for dealing with it during that time, because I probably would have lost my mind, because some things they would say, was airborne. Some things was with the touch, but you have to make sure everything was sealed up. I used to have a panic attack before I would go in that room. I ain't even gonna lie. Then it would be like, all right, get it together.
Well, see, for me, like when I was working, I was fine because I knew I had all the proper PPE. So, like I said, I was on the Ebola response team. We had a little outbreak over in Europe. I would do all of that. I was good, but man, when I was out here, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. The grocery stores in the morning, I think it was maybe like they were opening up at like 4 and they would let the elders go. I would go up there with the elders. I was going with the elders because we had the distance, and I was like, man, the elders, they're more likely to, keep their distance. So I would go up there in the morning time, but man, I was a nervous wreck. I ain't gonna lie to you. I didn't want to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could definitely
Did any of you catch it?
I already don't like crowds, but I don't like people in my space already before COVID. So it got even worse after.
Did any of you catch it?
I believe that I had it because remember those first couple months when we didn't really know what was going on? It was a lot of people that would be complaining, but of course you just thinking like, oh, it's the flu, is this? And we would be like, I don't have no taste, no smell. I went through that. I was like, what the hell is going on? I said, everything can't have no taste. Like, why the hell am I not tasting nothing? But thank God I didn't get bad. Unfortunately, I had a lot of family members that got it back to back to back to back, and some of them didn't make it. I had like 10 people in 1 week. That was a horrible time. And then it was like my best friend, her family got hit real hard, neighbors and stuff like that. But
yeah, I had it. Yeah, I had got it last December, and I remember too because like there was the same that I had went to go get my my hair braided, and I was like I had this massive headache. But I didn't know what the headache came. I thought it was just like a regular standard, headache that would just pass. But that headache lasted for like 10 hours. And it went all the way into the morning. And I tried everything to just go to sleep and wake up. I finally went to sleep and woke up and the headache was gone. But then when I woke up, like a couple hours later, I started feeling congested. My throat started to feel a little scratchy. I started to cough. And I said, okay, all of this is happening at one time. Let me just go take a as I call it, the woo-woo. Let me go take a woo-woo test. And I took it, and sure enough, that thing had 2 stripes on there, which meant it was positive. So that means I had caught it. And
see, Mo, you had the official gear. They wasn't giving us that in the
hospital. So that's why I say before I joined the military, I would have never known anything like this. But once I joined, I took this job. Man, when COVID happened, oh man, I was nervous as hell. I ain't gonna lie, I was nervous as hell. I was like, damn, I'm so used to being there.
You was Bubble Boy for real,
right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, good times, man. You really got to find who you were during that pandemic, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah,
exactly. I never got it. I only traveled 2 times during the pandemic. That was September of 2021 when my sister passed, and then March of 22. But other than that, I wasn't traveling. I wasn't going anywhere. I ain't start going outside till probably about April of 2022.
I used to just go to the store, and it was crazy. I mean, I know a lot of places was probably crazy, but here in New York, I was like, "Are they kidding me?" Like there was nothing on the shelves. I said, "What is these people doing?" Like you couldn't find toilet tissue, you couldn't find nothing. I was like, "Okay, what the hell is going to happen in here?" Like they was ransacking.
Oh yeah, I got a little experience too. I mean, I was good by the time the pandemic happened because I always buy my toilet paper in bundles. I get the
Me too. I was like, "Thank God I shop the way I do."
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah, and
remember
always wash your hands, y'all. I used to work at the soap company too, the soap factory, before I joined the military. I did a lot of things in my lifetime. I worked at the Applebee's headquarters too. Y'all didn't even know that it was an Applebee's headquarters.
Well, I'm sure that every major company or every major restaurant has a headquarters.
Yeah, but how many of them have it in Kansas City? Exactly. Not many. Let me see. So that's why when you see respirators, I always want to talk and see what kind of respirators, make sure they got the right HIPAA filters on there. Like, to me, I don't know, man. I get excited about that. That's why, like, did they do fit testing? Because they could have got through with asbestos.
Mm. Them night shows were no fun.
It all started in Manhattan nearly 2 months ago, at a place that will be known forever as Ground Zero, an act of terrorism and mass murder that ignited a war that now has no end in sight. We've learned about the people who died there, the murderers who killed there, the heroes who still work there. Tonight, for the first time, we take you under Ground Zero, to a once vibrant underground city within a city that is now a 16-acre burial ground, a place where the effort to rebuild, both physically and psychologically, faces extraordinary challenges. 7 weeks and a day after the attack on America's Twin Towers, there is still smoke in the air at Ground Zero. They can't put out the subterranean fires. It will be several more months before all the debris here will be carted away. And then there'll be an even more daunting and dangerous and time-consuming cleanup job, digging up and repairing what you can't see here, the tunnels and garages and underground mall beneath Ground Zero. Ken Holden, Commissioner of New York's Department of Design and Construction, is the city's point man in the cleanup effort. He says debris from the tall towers crashed through the roof of this building, World Trade Center Building 6, and through the basements 6 stories underground.
Large chunks of that heavy facade broke off, and presumably from floor, from the upper floors, 90 or higher, and just crashed through the center of this building.
Damn.
Crashing through the 9 floors of this building, and you'll see when we go underground, crashing through many of the concrete slabs that create the parking structure.
The debris, some of the individual pieces weighing 30 tons, cannonballed through Building 6, creating an open space that looks like an atrium. It left much of the building unstable, above ground and below.
Man, I ain't know about that one.
Really careful.
So that would explain how that one fell. Or was it 7?
Down below,
was it 6 or 7?
So that was 6 where
It was
it went
6.
through the roof. 7 is the one that they said was fire damage. I'm gonna show a video of 7. But yeah, so this is 6, and they said it went through the slabs in the parking garage up under, man. Like, I wonder, did they evacuate this building? Because if that 30 tons went straight through the roof, man, there's
Yeah, they probably. I mean, common sense would say to evacuate that building after the first plane hit.
Yeah, but like we said, man, when the first plane hit, it wasn't confirmed. Was it like now we know? Okay, if that happens, everybody's evacuating. But at that time, no one knew that it was actually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because prior to this falling, they wouldn't have known that it was falling until this happened. You know what I mean? Just you got to think about it at that moment. Like you said, we don't have social media, so boom, maybe everyone heard, okay, a plane hit. But if you just at work, you may have felt it, but you may like, what was that?
Yeah, you don't know what's going on at that point, and you can't really see it. So
Yeah, it's like we have our cell phones where you just sitting at work, you may have felt like, what was that? if you were in that building, you probably would thought I'm in a little earthquake or something. You know what I mean? You just didn't know back then.
Right.
But now, boom, if something like that happened, there's going to be an emergency alert on your phone immediately.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to know like this, because they may have said, because remember, they told people to go back in the buildings. It was all right. They just didn't know. And if this, look how this collapsed. There was no taking time, the top floor. No, it just went straight through and went all the way down to the garage up under it.
Exactly.
And this is a huge hole. Man, it just like we don't know what's going on right now, Torian. We all got our own thing. That's how it was. They just all on the street trying to,
right,
at this point, figure it out.
From the upper floors, 90 or higher, and just crash through the center of this building, crashing through the 9 floors of this building. And you'll see when we go underground, crashing through many of the concrete slabs that create the parking structure.
The debris, some of the individual pieces weighing
See, look at
30
that.
tons. Cannonballed through Building 6.
Could you imagine though if the plane crashed into the ground and not the building?
Like the base of it?
Yeah, like if it crashed into the base of it. Because the thing is, imagine hypothetically, well, 9 times out of 10 they wouldn't have did that because that wouldn't have fulfilled their plan. But if they was to crash that plane into the base of the building most likely would not have fallen straight down, but it would have fell sideways, meaning it would have covered more buildings across.
But
it would have definitely fell sideways instead of collapsing straight down.
I think they probably would have hit multiple buildings. They weren't that.
Yeah, they would have definitely probably hit multiple buildings on the way down for sure.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't even made it to the tower if they
Right.
did. But yeah, if you right.
Yeah, and they probably also figured that they would do it this way because remember they tried doing a bombing. I forgot what year that was.
93.
Yeah. So
and that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Torian, you right. I ain't even think of that. If they hit the base, that's just falling one side.
It's gonna fall. It will fall sideways.
Absolutely.
Which is a good thing that that bomb didn't have that much of an impact back in 93, because that's what would have happened is it would have fell sideways. It would have just fell and then fell sideways. It wouldn't have fell straight down. Because the fire is coming from the bottom to the top and not from the top down.
Yeah.
In space that looks like an atrium. It left much of the building unstable, above ground and below.
Be really careful here. A lot of these blocks are loose.
Down below, there are cracks and fissures in the staircases and walls.
Pretty regularly, and everybody.
Those cracks look like something out of an earthquake.
And there was worse to come. It is still very dangerous down here, a war zone. The deeper we descended, the darker and drearier and dustier it became.
And I know you could feel that in the air too.
Underneath them,
yeah,
they're only being held down by wires.
You could smell smoke, and when the wind shifts in certain pockets, there is the uniquely unmistakable smell of death. There was devastation everywhere. So much damage to the superstructure that, quite frankly, we were surprised to see anything still standing.
And these are the huge columns, the huge exterior columns that support the exterior of the building. And you can see the force of the fire and the explosion has basically sheared off. And so that when you look at it from the outside, you see that northern facade is leaning against this building. And that's why it's leaning, because these have sheared off.
When you see a building standing intact, Ken, you don't think it's possible this kind of thing can happen.
No, we're seeing very unusual circumstances throughout this building.
We kept descending. This is level B3, 3 floors beneath ground zero. We walked into what used to be a garage for the federal government employees who worked in the building. The daylight you see filters in from that giant crater at the bottom of what Holden calls the atrium.
I call it the atrium. Obviously, it was not an atrium. You can see cars hanging off here, cars down here.
Good God, this is an automobile hanging
Sure.
like this.
Good God.
With its tires burnt off. Obviously, the rubber has been burnt off. The fire here was so hot. Obviously, these cars are all burnt out, but you'll be able to see over believe it's over here. I see the aluminum hubcap is just melted.
So look at that. Even if you were down in the garage, yeah, you may have been all right. You didn't get smashed, but the car's caught on fire. So this whole garage down here was just in flames.
And the thing, and you got to think too, like the planes crashed near the top or in the middle, and see how far down it had to get to the garage, how far that fire got down there. So when that means when they collapsed, the fire didn't get put out from that collapse. It just kept burning.
Mm-hmm. There's more air. Once that oxygen hit it, it went down. This is B3. This is 3 floors down.
Imagine being in the garage. Like, just imagine being in the garage when that's happening, and you don't know what to think, and all you hear is this rumbling sound, and you don't know, should I, like, what am I going to do? Like, how, like, do, like, and you're in panic mode, so you're trying to like figure out which way to go, like how to get out of here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you visualize them right here, once it came down this far, this whole area was on fire. So you probably wouldn't have been, because how the cars are all on fire. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you probably wouldn't. Once it hit, it was probably over with.
Yeah. Did they say that? Did they say that they found anybody down in the garage?
No, they just said that you could smell.
Just found the cars.
Well, you could smell death.
Well, that could have been from the people that was in the building, like that came down with the building.
Yeah. No, I don't. They didn't say that they haven't mentioned anything about it finding survivors. But like I said, if this car is burnt up like this, and it was, man, if you were down, it was probably over with.
Melted right off. That's a puddle of aluminum from the fire.
Oh, this is what's left of the hubcap?
Yep. There's a car right down there.
I've never seen melted aluminum before.
There's a muffler, and there's a car down there.
It's like the Terminator.
That's what I was thinking. It looked like the T-1000. That's what I thought of when I saw that.
The Beatles. There's a graveyard for some people.
Tens of thousands of people used to come to these underground tunnels every day, not just to work in the towers and park their cars, but also to visit a vast underground shopping mall.
Damn.
Thousands of people came here to shop every day.
Sure.
I saw them scratch offs.
Underneath.
I saw them New York lottery tickets.
Very vibrant place.
Shops were down.
Hey, I'm just asking. I'm just asking.
What?
You think them scratchers tickets were legit?
You mean like, you know, I mean, what? I'm like, who was going to pay for them? Like for real, like who was you going to pay them to? The place got destroyed. But I just found it interesting though, like that got destroyed, but you can clearly see them scratch tickets right there in the casing, like they weren't even burnt up.
Yeah, it looked like it was just like dust in this area. But I mean, you can go to any store to cash in a lottery ticket. Now, if it's a big lottery ticket, they're gonna look at that serial code and they're gonna say, "Nah, bro, you took this out the tower, man." They know where all of these go. I'm just asking. My mama like scratcher tickets. What they gonna do with them? Throw them away? Might as well give them to a good cause.
I'm not even gonna lie. The curiosity would be there. Like, what if that has what if that's a jackpot? You know, what if that's the big winning ticket?
But you got that's just like taking money from a crime scene. You can't do it. You can't do it. You going to jail, they find
the temptation would be there. I'm just saying.
I know one thing though, them gummy bears, they were still in the package. I might get some gummy bears. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna do the scratcher ticket. You going to jail for them scratcher tickets. You done won $1 million. Like, wait a minute. 20 years of cash.
Here, in
Shops,
addition to the
restaurants, 15 to 25,000 people per building between people who actually work there. You have the
and you gotta think
train going.
That didn't get burnt up. All that stuff flew off the shelves from the blast.
Yeah.
Like when it was coming down, it literally like pushed all of that off, as if somebody who had the ability of telekinesis just came and just knocked everything down.
They said when the tower fell, it was 2.8 earthquake.
Yeah. Shoot, some people went flying. So
yeah, you heard one of the women talk. She said that when it fell, she got thrown back like 2 feet.
Yeah,
from the blast.
That door. Man, that just makes you think of movies. Like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, because a lot of people be thinking in movies like they think they over exaggerate when there's an explosion and people fly back. No, that like you will actually fly back from an explosion impact like that. It'll actually throw you back. And the thing is, you don't know where you're gonna land or how you're going to land. You just land.
You've got the path trains. I mean, this is a huge. This was a mini city.
Below ground.
All below ground.
What was Delta
We
doing
still
over
had
here?
3 stories to go to get down to the rail tunnels. It was pitch black, disorienting, and it was slippery. The floor was slick with oil and gas from the abandoned cars.
That's what Rainey said in the chat, that the stairs had oil and gas on them. And so it came from the cars.
You see these cracks right here?
Yep.
Right along here. This is a cracked slab. You can see it goes all the way.
Damn.
Yeah.
In a normal world, this is not a place I would recommend taking anyone to walk.
Well, that's the reason we want to keep moving here because
exactly.
this is unstable.
The path to the rail line is 6 stories below ground zero. Miraculously, perhaps, no one died in this station the day the towers came down.
Well, that answered my question.
Well, this is
answered my question. Wasn't anyone down there?
This is 6 floors down. Where we were at, that was 3. They said no one died in the station.
In the station, right? Because you figure stores, the underground, and then it's the station.
Yeah, so the station is 6 feet. Well, not 6 feet, but 6 stories down. So that was the furthest down, but you can still see it looked like stuff was damaged by it, though.
Yeah.
To them, it was probably just an earthquake. And think about it.
Yeah.
If you're down here, you definitely don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was just like some trains were stuck there for hours. Some of them, they had to open it up and you had to walk through and then walk however long you had to walk to get home. Or to get to where they were sending the buses to if you was lucky.
Tamika, if you don't like, do you remember what the temperature was like that day? Like, what was the climate like?
I believe it was like a sunny day from what I remember. Yeah. Because I know I didn't have no jacket or nothing on when I walked outside to take my son. Just had my coffee just like a regular day. And I was a news fanatic back then. I don't watch the news like that now. So it's like first thing, I'm sitting down drinking my coffee, turning on. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on? It was the first thing you saw.
Yeah, they said it was 72 degrees at Central Park.
All right, so it was like a pleasant day. Okay.
Yeah.
It had clear skies too, so it was like the ideal day for them. Man.
Yeah. Definitely wasn't expecting that.
Now imagine if you on the subway now. Once they stop the subways, you really don't know what's going on unless the conductor is radioing and he might tell somebody. But you just thinking it was an earthquake, the train stopped. You probably didn't know nothing until
again, because we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have
Wi-Fi.
social media, so on Wi-Fi, so you couldn't tell. And even down there, you know, the Wi-Fi, if there was Wi-Fi, it probably would have been cut off.
Right. Yeah. You don't get no service. It'll go probably in and out if you're lucky. Yeah, that's true. Again, the kid said she's surprised they weren't wearing the mask while they filming. They down there breathing themselves.
The subways were evacuated when the buildings were on fire. So when they did collapse, no one was injured. I mean, we lost a lot of people, but we saved a lot more than we lost.
35,000 commuters used to arrive in this station from New Jersey every day. Everything stopped just 5 minutes after Tower 1 tumbled down 6 stories overhead.
Of all the things we've seen,
That's crazy looking at that clock. Literally stops right on that time.
It's pretty eerie. It's pretty eerie. And the sign that says next stop home.
Next stop home.
Fortunately, there was nobody in the train.
Absolutely.
Well, that's
We
good.
got evacuated.
This was all evacuated. No one was hurt down here.
But it may take 2 years before the trains will start rolling here again, and even longer before a nearby subway line will be fixed. There are hundreds of.
So, Tamika, would you know? Can you see light there, or they got it boarded up and then the train just goes through?
What you mean?
They said it'll be a while before they get the lines back up and running. So
Yeah, there's still some lines that's not running to this day that I know of.
oh, see, I
Yeah.
thought they may like just boarded that part up and continued the trains to run by.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
They were still supposed to be doing some type of work. So, yeah.
Miles of wires, pipes, and cables to be replaced. By the end of next year, Commissioner Holden hopes to have his area above and below Ground Zero cleared up. Price tag, $2.5 billion.
Estimated. How much?
Yeah, I think that was in 2001.
We probably removed somewhere in the area of 400,000 tons. The initial estimates that we worked out with FEMA, the Federal Emergency Agency, were somewhere in the area, and with the Port Authority, we're somewhere in the area of 1.2 million tons. So we're probably about a third of the way through.
That's 1.2 million tons
of steel and debris.
Most of that from the surface.
Almost all of that from the surface. We're just beginning to get below grade.
And to those who say, I appreciate their spirit, but they must be kidding themselves. It just can't be done. You say what?
We'll get it done. We took one on the chin, knocked us on our butt, but like all New Yorkers, we'll pick ourselves up, we'll dust our clothes off, and we'll get back to doing what we do best.
There's one thing about New Yorkers,
But
they got
removing
pride
the
in
debris
their
that is
city.
underground is a logistical dilemma, an engineering nightmare. When the World Trade Center complex was built 30 years ago, an enormous retaining wall, called a slurry wall, was constructed below ground. The wall is 3 feet wide and 60 to 70
Well, that's back
deep.
in your day.
It was designed to
Yeah. I'd have been driving a dump truck.
from flooding in 6-story basements.
Here is your slurry wall. This is probably an old tieback.
The other side of this is the Hudson River.
Well, the other side of this is mud, but the water table here is extremely high because we're so close to the river.
Oh, they are very lucky that they built that structure, because if that would have collapsed, then you're gonna have flooding on your hands. Whew, that would be another monster to have to contend with.
Man, engineering, it ain't it something?
Yeah.
It ain't it something? I told you that's why we watching like the World Towers. I watched them put together these buildings and stuff. I don't know, it's just fascinating to me.
Are you gonna watch the one where they?
Yeah,
Are you gonna watch the one when they build Disney World?
Disney World?
Yeah.
What they building? Like an amusement park?
Like the structure of it.
Man, hell no.
Because you said you like, because I was just asking because you said.
I thought you like you can build like a town or something. Like, okay, I'll watch something like that, but they just what, the castle? Man, no.
Well, the actual whole park, I should say, as big as that, many acres that is.
If they do some live coverage of it, you know what? I might watch it.
It might be some stuff. It might be some stuff on. It might be some stuff online you can find.
Yeah, they may have something like that. I like to see how they build up these buildings. That's always been interesting to me. And bridges. But mind you, I don't like.
I'm not a fan of bridges either. I'm with you like that, Tamika. I'm not a fan of long bridges. Like, like for me, whenever I have to go across the Chesapeake, I have to kind of do breathing exercises before I go across that bridge, because that's a very long bridge.
Yeah, that is a long bridge.
Hey, that's how I was the first time going to go across the Golden Gate. I said, man, I don't know about this.
And I know the Golden Gate Bridge. I know it's like the clouds like come down a lot, like right there in the morning too. So it's kind of foggy. Going across that bridge.
Hey man, that bridge is long, right? Pause. And when my mama came out to visit, she talking about she want to walk that thing. I said, ain't walking across no whole damn bridge. Then when we got out there, she was like, "Oh yeah, you're right."
Yeah, I walked across the Brooklyn Bridge one time, and that's nowhere near as big as that one.
It wasn't during the blackout, was it?
No. But I know people that did.
Yeah, I remember the New York City blackout. Yes. I said that. Yeah, that was because I think that happened in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. I remember the coverage from that. I said, I know them people are pissed. They had to walk across that bridge.
Yeah.
When I heard about the blackout, I ain't gonna lie. I was like, man, no disrespect to New York. I like them niggas is broke up there. How the power go off? I was like, what the hell? I was like, how a whole city have a blackout? I didn't understand them. The grids, they just couldn't handle it until I moved to Arizona. It's like, oh, my bad, New York. Hey, I'm gonna rewind a little bit though, because you see, like they dug it up when they were initially making this.
From
Look at all of this. They literally got the water right here. They dug this up and put the holes there, man. That's crazy.
Flooding the 6-story basements.
Here is your slurry wall. This is probably an old tieback.
The other side of this is the Hudson River.
Well, the other side of this is mud, but the water table here is extremely high because we're so close to the river that special construction techniques were needed.
The massive underground containing structure is nicknamed
That would have
the
flooded.
bathtub.
That's the difference. The bathtub in your house is designed to
That's a
keep
lot
the
of water.
This keeps it out so that they could build the parking structures underground here.
For 30 years now, the wall has been supported by the floors in the basement levels, floors that have now buckled. Because of all the damage, Ken Holden's engineers will have to shore up the wall with more than 1,000 cables to prevent it from collapsing.
You know, we're drilling through the 3-foot wall, drill 85 feet or so down to bedrock, then we drill 35 feet into bedrock. Then we take basically the same kind of cables that they use on bridges, grout it up, basically concrete it up, wait 3 days for it to cure, and then they tension those cables, and that sustained the wall.
It's a lot of work.
Something
Once-
fell.
He don't understand it just like we don't.
Once the permanent,
Are we all right here?
we're fine.
Commissioner Holden knows he can never let his guard down here, and he has concerns about the structural integrity of the wall when he starts demolition nearby.
As we talk right now, parts of the slurry wall have been damaged a little. Is there some water seeping through or not much?
There is no more water seeping through the slurry wall now than there is in normal circumstances.
But it's a constant battle to keep it dry down here, to keep the floods out. Even when the wall is intact, there are several inches of water in these tunnels.
But this water is not seeping in from the river. This comes from
No, and if
fireman's water.
exactly, this is all-
Saving the wall is critical. If the tunnels flood, the water could pour into train and subway lines and destabilize nearby buildings.
That would be a mess.
The hair on the back of your neck.
You know, eventually, we probably won't be around
I've been
for
down
it,
there
but
20
eventually
times,
they're going to
my
be
hair's
talking
come
about, hey,
all
we
the
got to
way.
go down
Maybe
there
you
and do
could
the
give some of
walls
the rest
again.
of us.
Ken Holden is under enormous pressure to get the job done.
Because this is
Below ground and
2001.
above.
Mm-hmm.
He knows he can't lose his sensitivity or perspective.
22 years ago.
It was probably about 2 weeks ago where a firefighter was walking around asking us to hold off on the road building operation. Basically pointed to a road to his left. He said, you guys have already buried my best friend over here. And I'm looking for my son over here. And he was pointing to the area where we're building another road. I saw out of the corner of my eye the father climbing up to the debris pile with a spade and picking up spadefuls of debris, looking for his son in that manner, and then threw the spadefuls back and continued to climb and look for spadefuls. It was probably ranks as one of my more poignant moments.
It's been 7 weeks and a day. Firefighters and other rescue workers still search round the clock at Ground Zero, looking for the bodies of the thousands of people who have died here. They don't want to leave anyone behind.
Do you consider it sacred ground, or is it now moving to a demolition and construction site?
In order for me to work here every day, I think I have to segue away from the sacred ground considerations and move towards a construction site. But I think you can't work here without being cognizant of the fact that there are people here, there's suffering here, there's dead bodies here, and there's a need to treat this ground in a manner different than you would in any other construction site.
Since the attack at Ground Zero, Ken Holden and his troops have been down in the rubble almost every day. It hasn't been easy, but America is at war, and Commissioner Holden plans to win.
I think my attitude is probably the same attitude that most of the guys have down here working on a day-to-day basis, working on the pile.
What you got going on,
Years
Commish?
ago, when the Nazis were bombing Great Britain, and the British people were pulling out their family and their friends and their neighbors from the rubble, Winston Churchill said, "We shall not fail. We shall not falter."
Hey, bro, you should have been prepared for this. You knew they were coming down here. You knew he was going to do this quote. We're waiting to hear what damn Winston Churchill said. You ain't gave us no information yet, sir.
I don't mean to laugh, but I was thinking, like, where's he going with this?
I was over here trying to type and see when did they start removing debris to see how long it was after it happened. And I'm listening to him talk about like Great Britain versus Germany and then Winston Churchill. I'm like, where are we getting to? Were you gonna give us the quote? What are we doing? Are you
it's all about the buildup. It's all about the buildup.
Yeah, but what are we building up to? Do you believe that you can do the job? He ain't talking about Winston Churchill. He better win this war.
Oh, wow.
Gary, we shall not tire. Just give us the tools and we'll finish the job.
Thanks, sir. That's what I said. Can you finish the job? Yes or no? Yes, we can.
Well, since we know that, spoiler alert, we know that they did.
I know. Shout out
clearly.
to them. I was just saying.
Yes.
I ain't gonna lie to you. This was, of course, he was passionate about what he does, but he was trying to make a moment for TV with that one. I was like, hey, we don't need the quote, man. He was in the mirror last night practicing.
His mind probably just went blank. Sometimes that happens.
Little Johnny, I'm gonna be on TV tomorrow. Oh man. Hey, I thought I was gonna watch this whole thing, but I'd already been on here for 2.5 hours, man. Oh man. I'm glad we could laugh at certain moments, man. Oh man, but one thing we can say is 9/11 is gonna forever be something that we all remember, because that's only one day in history that I can think about that we all know what we were doing that day.
Absolutely.
So, is there any other date y'all think that we would all remember what we were doing?
The DC sniper.
Yeah, but I mean that was like multiple days though. Like I don't really remember. You know what I mean? Like
I guess I'm saying that for myself personally, because
Yeah,
that was I was around that area when it happened. And the thing is, like I was telling somebody else, the gym that I go to, I literally ride past the school where one of the kids got shot. The school is literally on the right side, and where they did it was from what was like in the bush, like in a brush area. They kind of like cleared that area out ever since then. And I literally ride past that school every day that I go to the gym.
Yeah, see, for you now, that's probably different because you were directly.
I feel like I remember that. I always remember watching Zach on OJ being chased.
Oh yeah, the OJ trial.
I always remember that.
I was young. I was relatively young when that happened.
I was chasing his Bronco. We was like, what the hell? So I definitely remember that one. And
Randy, I got some stories when it comes to what was going on with that DC sniper.
Hey, we might do something then, Torian.
The Charleston shooting, I definitely remember that one. Yeah, so it's a few things that stick out that is like, I know exactly where I was.
Yeah.
What I was doing.
9/11, 22 years, man.
I know it seemed like yesterday too. It really do.
Right.
The time that's passed by, some of these kids was babies when that happened, and
some weren't even born yet.
Right.
Yeah, but I remember like vividly where I was at. Like I said, I was in middle school. I was only in school for like maybe an hour when it happened. Like when I heard what happened at the Pentagon, at least, because that was more closer to us. But we didn't know about what happened in New York. It was like in school, we just kind of heard some things floating around, but we didn't know the details of it. Again, this is before before smartphones. The only social media that was out at the time, Black Planet. You wasn't getting nothing off of Black Planet.
Right. Oh God, I remember Black Planet. We used to be on here.
You wasn't getting anything off of Black Planet.
Right. You sure wasn't. You took it way back with that.
You didn't care about no news, none of that.
Right.
Pictures and your friends. That's it.
Yeah, it's definitely different now. Everybody phones will be like, alert, alert, alert.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, I'm about to try to log into Black Planet.
Wow.
I know my username. I don't know my password. I don't even know what email I was using.
Wow.
I definitely don't know.
Hey, Black.
That was the time.
Hey, Black Planet was my first time realizing that the world is bigger than this. Dang.
But thanks, fellas. I appreciate jumping up here with y'all.
No
I'm
problem.
acting like I ain't
No
got
problem.
nothing to do.
Now,
No
that's kind of
problem.
what I want to do with this channel. We'll just talk about, of course, we got 9/11, but just throughout the week, I just do random stuff. I mean, any news that pops up also. But I don't know. I don't know if
Did
y'all.
you ever hear any more about that man that was on the run? They still ain't find him?
I posted something in the Discord last night. The only thing that they have so far is that he completely changed his appearance, which I knew he was going to do if he was still out there long enough, because he would have been foolish to still look the same as he did when he escaped. So basically, there it is. He shaved all his facial hair off and he cut his hair, because when he left, he had a head full of hair and a bunch of facial hair. And he was literally caught on a home device. Look at him just chilling.
Just chilling.
Chilling on somebody's porch.
Oh.
I'm like, what is going on up there? Like, are the people up there incompetent or what? Look at him just he's there, he's right there. He's at somebody's doorbell.
At approximately
That's
12:30 a.m. PSP was made aware of a sighting of Cavalcante.
Exactly, Eric. Me and Eric said he was past Sunday. When you said
our investigation yielded the
past Sunday.
following.
It's now Monday.
Yeah, fair. He's still out there. Well, hey, they upped it. They upped it though. Once Sunday hit, it went up to 25,000. It was initially 10. Then I think it was the crime people. They put in 10, and now it's at 25. Man, they know damn well they need to offer 100,000. These people are gonna start.
Right. A blind person will get out there and try to look for him. Shit.
The fact that he just out here chilling and
yeah, and the thing is, like, it's almost like he's trolling them, and it's like he's not even trying to lay low.
Right.
He showed y'all how he looks now.
Man, that's because they got the damn state police. Get the feds out there, man. Why do we still have the state troopers? We know y'all couldn't do y'all job.
Oh, you see what Rainey wrote in the chat? She said y'all should do the DC Sniper Live, and that is a really good one. And Torian's perspective would be cool.
Yeah,
I'll definitely come up here and give my take on that.
I remember
because that happened in 2002. That literally happened almost exactly a year since 9/11, because that was around the October range. And I was like, oh damn! I'm like, we dealt with 9/11 last year. Now we got to deal with this damn sniper this year.
Right.
So it was like, I was like, we can't catch a break, and then y'all had the blackout the following year. I'm like, damn! I'm almost scared to ask what's going to happen in 2004.
Yeah, we could do the DC sniper. See, that's what I want. I want you guys' feedback. Whatever y'all want on the channel, that's what we'll do on this channel. But it's got to be real life stuff. It ain't no more.
Yeah, like I can definitely talk about the DC sniper from my perspective of it. Even though I was still, like, at that time I was 13. So but I still have vague memories of what the atmosphere was like during that time.
To the drunk school teacher. Yeah, I was even telling my friend about that one.
Listen, that thing had me and Mo cracking up. I had to clip that and turn that into a reel on Instagram. That I still go back and play that clip and laugh just as hard as I did when we first saw that. That was too funny. That was hilarious.
She said, well, can we just do no handcuffs?
That was
in there for an hour, man.
Her whole tone switched up. She went from crying to say, well, can I just go outside without the handcuffs?
Damn.
Yeah, she set her own self up with that.
Right.
Sometime during the evening of September 9th, Cavalcante stole a 2020 Ford Transit van from an area approximately 3.
Hold up. He stole a van?
What?
He stole a van? Yeah, he trolling y'all for real now. This guy's about to be like the world's best hide and seek player.
Oh man, I didn't know he stole a van. Man.
Right, I didn't know he stole a van either.
Hold on, let me make sure this might be before he got arrested. Y'all ain't no way.
They said September 9th. This was 2 days ago.
Oh man, here we go.
Following occurrences. Sometime during the evening of September 9th, Cavalcante stole a 2020 Ford Transit
during the
van
evening
from
of
an area
September.
approximately 3/4 of a mile from the perimeter we were maintaining.
3/4 of a mile?
He ain't even left the city, man.
Right, that's what I said. He's not far. He's there. That's why I said he's trolling them. He has not left the perimeter that they're scanning.
Oh.
So let's map this thing out. This guy literally from the jump in jail for life. He escapes. The week after he gets put into prison, he crab walks out of there. He gets through some barbed wire with that towel. He literally escapes. He's caught on 2 cameras, one with his shirt off and the other one on his back turned with the backpack on with supplies that again he stole. Then he's caught on this camera completely shaved, cut all his hair off, and now he has stolen a van 3/4 of a mile away from the perimeter that they're over. Like, let's really let this sink in right quick. That's why when he was in the camera, he was smiling.
Mm-hmm.
This guy don't even look like he's on the run. He's like, this is too easy. Like,
yeah.
If he wanted to leave out of the area right now, he easily could. But like I said, they better catch him, because I brought this up to somebody who I go to the gym with, and they said they hadn't heard of this. And I said, the scary part is, imagine he gets into an area where people don't know who he is. You could have easily walked past a person who killed his girlfriend and wanted for murder in Brazil and is currently supposed to be serving out a life sentencing, and you wouldn't even know.
All right, so I think we were doing it wrong. So it said it was 3/4 of the perimeter, so it's about 25 miles away.
That's a lot for on foot until he finally got that van. Now that he got some wheels, now he can really move.
That's ridiculous.
Especially if he has like gallons of gas. If he just has the gas buckets, he good. He ain't got to stop. He can drive as far as he wants. And they just said that he has a van, but we don't have a license plate. We don't know I think they said the type of van, but we don't know what the make of the van is.
Yeah.
So,
and it's saying, so Saturday evening, he don't know his direction, because they say he's gonna try to go to Mexico. But if he just driving around, man, he just driving these roads and just taking different, man, he probably
listen. He stole so much stuff so far. He might actually catch someone slipping and take their phone.
Yeah, because right now it don't look like he got direction. So he just driving and probably thinking, oh, I can get him off my tail if I drive down this road. Because remember, he's from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So he don't know
the roads are different out there.
He probably thinking he can out trick them, not knowing.
Randy said they found the van.
Oh, they found it.
They found the van, but not him.
Listen, them he playing in their face. I'm sorry.
This is crazy.
Near the Longwood Gardens property. The keys had been left in the van, and the theft was not noticed until PSP canvassed the area looking for a possible stolen vehicle after a report of a sighting.
So there it is, right there.
In the East
I spoke too soon.
It was determined Cavalcante used the van and traveled to that area. At 9:52 p.m., he attempted to contact an individual he had known and worked with several years prior. Cavalcante spoke with the individual via a video doorbell at that residence and inquired about meeting with that individual.
So that's why he was there. So he went to someone's house he knew.
Are you kidding me?
At first, I'm thinking it's a random.
Right.
But this is someone he knew. Now it makes sense why he went there. It wasn't just some random pop-up. Well, I mean, to them, it was probably a random pop-up, but it wasn't like he just popped up at some random residence. It's somebody he knows.
Could you imagine you worked with him years ago and he's coming to talk?
Right.
Because you remember he initially came to Virginia, and then that's how he ended up in Pennsylvania. Yeah, Dan, that's crazy that it was somebody he used to. So it looks like he does know his way around the city. Damn.
This man is harder to find than Carmen Sandiego. God
Serious.
damn.
I don't mean to laugh because he needs to be off the streets, but this is ridiculous. He's catching robbed.
You gotta think this guy been out of prison longer than he's been in. He's only been in prison for a week.
Exactly.
He's been out for almost 2 weeks.
I think it is though. That's no different than what we're watching with Tommy Egan. Like Tommy actually left New York. No, I'm just saying, like He's been gone for 7 days. They got all this information, but can't piece nothing together. It's going on 2 weeks. It's Thursday. Well, yeah, what, a week? I don't know. But Tommy Egan went to Chicago. They can't put this together. So this is like, damn, and that he's playing around right now. He knows
he's trolling them for real.
Man,
ain't no way in the world.
But like we said, man, the police, they doing their job. They might be slow, but they gonna connect it down.
But here's the thing, though, it's multiple agencies up there. It's not like they're just doing it by themselves. And you mean to tell me y'all got all these agencies up there? He's leaving all these little clues of he's literally having you follow him, but you can't catch him. Y'all found the van he stole with the keys in it, but he's not there.
Right.
And now that they know that he popped up at someone's home that he knows, it's like, is the person going to talk, or what? Did the person even let him in, or did he just stay out on the porch?
Yeah, I don't think they let him in.
Yeah, because he just said that they wanted to contact him and set up a meeting. Let me see. Did he say that they were going to do a meeting, or he probably just asked?
Individual via a video doorbell at that residence and inquired about meeting with that individual. The individual was at dinner with his family and did not respond to meet Cavalcante. Cavalcante left that residence. The homeowner eventually returned home, reviewed his doorbell recording, and called local police.
Oh, okay.
PSP received a call about this sighting and the next at 12:30 in the morning on September 10th, 2023.
Yesterday.
This was our first indication that Cavalcante had been able to travel from the area of Longwood Gardens. Photos of Cavalcante were downloaded from a video doorbell and have already been provided to the media. Some of those photos are here adjacent to the podium. You will note that Cavalcante is now clean shaven and wearing a bright green hooded sweatshirt. Investigators were also made aware of another sighting in the Phoenixville area in which Cavalcante appeared at a residence of another old work associate at 10:07 p.m.
He going to everybody's
He was
house.
not home, but a female resident observed Cavalcante and called her friend. That friend responded to the residence and eventually placed a call to local police. Police investigated and then notified PSP. During that investigation, there was an indication of a white vehicle possibly being used by Cavalcante. An updated photo of Cavalcante was provided to state and local law enforcement at 2:30 a.m. Using the description provided, at 5:20 a.m., investigators identified a vehicle from the Longwood Gardens area which fit the description of the vehicle operated by Cavalcante. Upon contacting the vehicle owner, the owner realized their vehicle had been stolen. Further investigation revealed the keys had been left in the vehicle.
Oh, man.
Law enforcement nationwide was immediately notified.
They had to be white folk.
Right. Then they say lock your cars, lock your homes. What the?
Maybe they told y'all to stay indoors, man.
Wasn't it hide your kids, hide your wife? That too.
Damn, you left your keys in, man.
Of the theft, and an alert was provided to state and local law enforcement at 5:37 a.m. After an extensive search, the vehicle was discovered abandoned in a field behind a barn in East Nantmeal Township at 10:40 a.m. Investigators have been searching the area around that location since that time.
This is a matter.
Yeah, I wonder how
playing
they
with them at this point. And how he remember where all these old employees lived that he used to work with. I damn don't remember the people I was working with.
Shoot, probably couch surfing.
Right.
Yeah.
And Rainey had said, how did he shave? I said he had supplies, so he could have stole some clippers, or he could have used a blade.
Hell, he was stealing stuff. He stole all those clothes, so he probably
And he was clean shaven.
Yes.
Like there's like no stubble at all. It looks like he had no facial hair, like no growth. He went in. He was going in.
Damn.
And the thing is, if they had never showed how he looked on that doorbell camera, I wouldn't have known he was walking down the street. Because if you look at him at his mugshot or how he looked when he escaped, he really does look like a whole different person.
Yeah, completely different.
I said they better catch him before he finds a way to try to give himself a sex change, go from Danilo to Danella.
And they just arrested his sister.
Sister arrested by immigration officials. Goddamn. And that's today.
Oh shit.
That's the sister. So I guess criminality must run in the family.
The sister of escaped convict Danella Cavante has been arrested by U.S. immigration, while the fugitive prisoner has been attempting to contact former co-workers seeking help eluding law enforcement. His sister was arrested by ICE and faces possible deportation over some immigration issues. Now they about to try to, hey, you tell us where your brother is, and we let you.
Yeah, that's probably what they're gonna do.
We know the game. She's facing possible deport.
They say we'll let you stay, but you got to tell us where your brother is.
Yeah, it's either you're going to deport her or you're not. There ain't no facing possible.
Right.
Y'all know what these issues are before you brought her up here. But if you can contact your brother, you can become a citizen.
We're gonna see if she ride or die.
Listen, I'm telling. What's that sound bite Mo always put on? I'm telling. No. FBI is FBI. I'm calling.
Hey, you know the sister.
I'm not even built like that, yo. That ain't even me, yo.
Hey, listen. They said, though he declined to say whether she was arrested to help elude the police.
And this dude is like 5 foot, is like 5 feet. They better look under a damn fallen leaf.
Hey,
Let's see if they can find him.
He in the woods getting it.
The fact that he's able to just hide in plain sight, not even far from them,
Right.
is crazy.
When we look at this at the end of the year, hopefully they do catch him before the end of the year. I mean, right now it's looking kind of bleak, but we're gonna look back on this guy right here. We're like, this guy literally had them like all running in circles, and he's like literally right underneath their nose. As short as he is, he's probably underneath their chin. But like they should be able to catch him.
And they were talking about the bright green jacket. Little do we know, he probably using that to his advantage out there in the woods.
Right. He said, I'm going to blend in like a chameleon, you know?
That's crazy.
And the smartest thing I will say he's doing, though, is he's moving at night. He's not dumb enough to move during the day.
Right.
He's always moving at night because every time there's an update, it's always something about nighttime. When he got caught on those first few cameras, it was at night. When he was on this most recent camera, it was at night. The truck, the van, at night. So he's always moving when it's dark.
Yeah.
Well, he's still on the loose, y'all. Oh yeah,
Yep.
Where's Hurricane Lee at? Because that's supposed to be tearing up the East Coast. They said about 10 to 15 foot waves.
It needs to stay its ass out on the sea in the Atlantic. You know,
it does.
Yeah. We've been getting a lot of rain lately, and then
we got a lot of rain this morning. I got a lot of rain this morning.
Yeah.
Right
It's
now.
pouring down.
And my power briefly went out because a tree had fell on the line.
Yeah, I know that problem, man. I hate that. But that's pretty much it, y'all, man. Remembering 9/11, 22 years later. Damn. Damn, 9/11. Oh, we need to do a Hurricane Katrina one.
I was getting ready to say one about Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
Like all of these events, like man, my dad.
Now that actually brought tears to my eyes
Yeah.
for a multitude of reasons. But I'll wait until we
was
get.
it Michael Moore that was talking about that in the comments a little while ago? He said his family had to make it. Yeah, I remember that too. That's definitely another one.
Yep. They sent my dad down there for 6 months doing all of that. Damn. But yeah, man. I'm Mod J. This is Torian, Tamika. Make sure you guys subscribe to their channel. We'll be doing more, but it'll be per request. Outside of any articles that I come up with, it'll be per request. I like that. So we got 9/11. We got Hurricane Katrina. Man, I wish we could have finished that tsunami one, man. That would have been a good one.
The DC sniper one.
Oh yeah, DC sniper. All right, so we got a list of things. All right, bet. A moment in time. A moment in time. Ooh, hey, there we go. A moment in time. Oh, damn. I had to be living when it happened. A moment in time. I like that. Hey, thanks to y'all for that. You know what I'm saying? A moment in time. Damn, that's nice. All right. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for y'all joining me, and I'm out.